me is nothing. I mean, that's amazing. So I will say, hello, interwebs. It is I, David Hewlett, back with another I'm with Stargate Genius. Have to thank Agne for this one. Sara, I'm not sure if I'm going to say this right. Sara Marques? Would that
No,
be the right one?
Marques.
Marcus, it is Marcus. Okay, so I'm trying to be too French. That's my problem. So Sara
Yeah, but I'm not
Marques.
French though.
Well, no, I'm trying to be French though, because it's that whole French Canadian thing. It's that we're always trying to make things as French as we possibly can.
But that's actually a joke, but yeah, sure.
Oh, was it? Oh,
yes.
Okay, all right.
There's going to be a friend that is going to watch the live and he's now laughing because of that, you know.
Oh, good. You got the inside jokes going already. You've got the fan base set up. Yeah. Perfect. Sara, welcome. First off, welcome. This is amazing. I always ask people for some homework just to get a little background as to what you're up to and what you're interested in. Holy cow. The stuff you had for me was amazing. Like I lost myself in it for days. Sara, if you wouldn't mind, just jump in here, tell us who you are and what you do, and we can dive into what you're up to.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Sara, and thanks for having me in this show, actually. And thanks, Oliver, to connect us because.
It was Oliver. It was Oliver. That's right.
He's also listening. He's in the chat. So
okay,
I'll count on you to answer the hard questions, Oliver.
Oh, good. Oliver could jump in. Right. Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
But I mean, I'm Sara, and I'm actually an aerospace engineer, trained aerospace engineer. And now I decided that I wanted to pursue science a little bit, like influenced by Oliver in that sense. But and I'm doing a PhD in astrophysics. But because I'm an engineer, I mean, I wanted to have some kind of engineering way of doing it. So to do that, I'm using AI for it. And I'm now in the field of exoplanets, so that's part of the homework I gave you, and we can
that stuff it blows me away, because normally I would say, like, usually at some point in a chat you'd get to like, so are you using AI for anything? You're all about that. Can you explain sort of how that works?
Yeah. So the project I just joined, so I'm starting, I started like a year and something ago, so I'm really fresh into the PhD.
You're the newbie.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'm learning so much because I did not know anything about exoplanets before. I mean, barely knew when I went to the interview for the PhD, actually.
Oh, really? So your expertise was in the AI more than the space stuff?
It was more in satellites, because aerospace engineering, it's in the sense like I really used to conceive the satellites that go into space. I used to use AI for this. And before I was even in Airbus and doing an algorithm for optimizing the satellites with AI. And so I did a specialization on this. And then I joined this project because I really wanted to go for science. And this project was to try to understand the architecture of planetary systems. So, I mean, you have a lot of exoplanets in space. They have been found since 1990s. Basically, the Nobel Prize for it was given in 95, actually, for something discovered in 95.
See, that's recent for me. That may be old for you.
That's quite recent. I mean, let's say that this is a quite recent field. And basically, people keep discovering every day new exoplanets. Now we actually reached the threshold of 6,000, not so long ago, actually.
Wow. We have 6,000 exoplanets now.
And actually the predictions say that we keep finding them, that actually there's at least one per star in our galaxy. So we keep observing the stars which are close to us, because that's what our satellites kind of can do. And now we are starting to find a lot of them. In the beginning, they obtained the Nobel Prize for something which is very weird, because it was something which was called a hot Jupiter. So in our solar system, we actually, we are not creative also in our field. So we call things like Jupiter,
it paints a picture.
Hertz, mini Neptunes, I mean, that's what we know,
Right.
But basically we have our solar system, and we know that the giant planets are outside. So we have like the inner planets, which are rocky, which are small. And then you have the giant planets, which are outside. And what happened was, when they did this discovery, they found this giant planet because it was easier to spot. So giant planets around stars are easier to spot. And it was something which was giant, but very close to the star, like so close that it was even closer than us to the star,
Right.
So that's why it is called a hot Jupiter, because it's really very close, very warm. And so, I mean, And ever since, we kind of like keep discovering more and more. We keep discovering systems like TRAPPIST-1, which is a very famous one, because it has like small planets which are kind of like sized like the Earth, and they are very close packed in. And we keep finding these things, and we want to understand if there's some kind of logics in the architecture, if there are correlations, and there seem to be. For example, stars which have like higher density in terms of like matter, so they are more massive, they tend to have heavier planets around it, which makes sense in a certain kind of logic, you know. But there's things which are way more subtle than this, you know, that when there's inner planets which are small, that means that maybe there's an outer planet which is bigger, and it kind of blocks the smaller planets which are inside to become bigger in the way that they form.
Oh, wow. So there's almost an algorithm for the way the planets will form around specific types of suns,
so,
the stars.
Coming back to that algorithm, like you said, so here in Bern, where I am, and they have been like trying to study this for more than 20 years, and they created like this massive algorithm which attempts at simulating the way that these planets form, like from when they are little things, like around a small young star, or like just a young star, and they try to simulate how they form and how they actually create systems of planets. And for this, you can apply all the physics laws that you know, and then try to compare with what you see in space. But what you see is also incomplete information. So in a certain way, you kind of need to go back, look at this incomplete information, and take the information that you think can help you like complete the model that you have. So it's kind of like this loop around.
So the model does sort of some of the grunt work for you, but you still need an expert to come in and go, okay, that makes sense. That doesn't, you know, or that doesn't jive with what we're seeing.
Exactly. So basically they are doing this in Bern, and it's a massive thing that has been built for like years with a lot of scientists which build on top of it. You can find comments in every single language possible. So it's really something quite international, quite big. And what it does is that it simulates really from what we call like embryo planets, really like tiny things like the moon, until they become giant. And it simulates for systems. Like we put like 100 of these small moons inside, and we see how they evolve, how they collide, if one gets absorbed by the other, if the other one spirals into the star, and we do it all over again. But the problem is, like, as you can imagine, this is something that takes a lot of time. I mean, if you want to simulate like the creation of a planetary system in like, it's not easy, you know, with all the physics and really trying to put a lot of physical intuition inside. It's not easy at all. So it takes actually months to get the simulation to go, you know. And this is like impossible to actually, if you want to do studies on it and really compare and the statistics, is impossible to do. So that's where AI comes in. So the idea was that we use the model that we already have. We already tried to do some simulations for a couple of years. So we gathered enough to actually have the correlations between the planets, the physics intuition inside. And we took these populations and we threw it to a transformer, so something like ChatGPT in a way. And we tried, because ChatGPT is excellent for this. Well, ChatGPT, I'm saying like the algorithm.
With the large language model approach.
Exactly. It's perfect for this because, first of all, it kind of can understand correlations between words. If you want to create a sentence, he understands that it needs structure. So it needs a verb, it needs the complement, it needs a subject. And at the same time, it understands that a few words don't go together, but others do. If I say to you, tonight at 8, I'm going to have, and then I don't give you the next words, but I say to you, lunch or dinner, you can know from the context which one is the right one, right? And this is exactly what we want with the planets. We want to try to see in a certain way if we could capture these kind of correlations, which for English, it's easy for us to understand because we studied for all our lives and we know it. But for these planets, it's actually a little bit more delicate. Some of them we might be able to see immediately, but some of them, I mean, we need years to actually study the data to be able to understand these correlations. But if you do, then you can create as many planets and as many planetary systems as you want. And this is the role of AI. And you do it very, very fast. You don't need to wait like 3 months for a simulation to finish. You just need to wait a few seconds after the model really understood what you want. And that's a little bit what we did. So it's basically the first paper that I gave you. Basically, I joined that project a little bit, not exactly at the beginning, but in the middle. And we did a few tests of this algorithm. And basically, we even tested with real data. So we tried to do the statistics.
That you know where the planets are, you know the suns, you know everything,
so there was a mission at some point. So TESS, actually, it's like a transit mission. So it's something that observes a star and looks for a shadow of a planet passing in front of the star.
Yeah, we should say this is how you know that there are exoplanets, right? Is it an occlusion, or what does they call it? It occludes the sun or something?
We just call it a transit in general.
Transit, okay, right.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is one of the methods. So it's basically you have the star and you're observing the star, you're looking at its luminosity. And at some point, if you have something passing in front, it's going to decrease the luminosity. Yeah. And then you measure this decrease in luminosity, you know for which period of time it actually took to kind of like pass the sun or the star. And then it's going to repeat, because it's a planet. So if it is a planet, it's going on an orbit. So it passes again at a certain time that you can estimate. And then it passes again. And once you actually see it 3 times in a periodic way, then you can say, I think this is a planet. Wow. So this is one of the...
These are tiny. Like these are these are pixels within pixels. I mean, they've got to be.
Yeah.
How do you
trust your telescopes?
Yeah, seriously.
Of course. I mean, we are not capable of seeing yet all of these pixels. They need to be within what we call the signal to noise ratio of our telescopes. So it needs to be above a certain threshold for us to really be sure that when we are seeing something and not just noise.
But the reality is, you could have that data from basically any project that's out there looking out at other stars. You could take that data and ingest it as part of the
Exactly.
I mean,
amazing. There's a lot of techniques other than these ones, actually, but I mean, this is one of the main one at the moment that is being used. And
what else is there, out of curiosity? What else could be used to find planets?
So another one which is quite used as well is actually called radial velocity. And this is actually for bodies that are a little bit more massive in general. And the idea is that you have a planet which is a bit bigger, and it's going to interact with the star. So it's going to attract the star. That means that because it is orbiting the star around, it's going to push the star a tiny little bit, of course, because it's a planet, it's not a star, but it's going to kind of push it a little bit along its orbit. So it's going to make the star rotate a little bit. And you see the difference in the light that arrives, because if the star is moving, then you're going to have the Doppler effect, the red shift and the blue shift and everything. And you measure this, and this allows you to kind of like see there's something there that is disturbing the movement of the star. And it's allowing you to actually know there's a planet there. And from this, you actually get the mass. So the other one, you actually get the radius, because you compare a little bit the size of the shadow, and that is how big the planet is. This new technique is actually gravitational interaction. So it's the mass that you get from it.
And that's where your specialty is, right? Is that you're adding mass to the AI project? Is that right?
No, the expertise is more in the sense that we give properties. So we decided to go very simple. We decided to give just the distance to the star and the mass of the planet. Okay. And we said that, I mean, these are 2 fundamental properties, of course. And the third one, which is interesting, and this is part of the new version, is the radius.
Right.
And basically what we said was, we are going to encode this into characters, because like that, we can feed it to a large language model.
Right.
And then we let the large language model understand the correlations between the characters. So fundamentally, the correlations between the planets.
Right.
And from this, then, when it learns, it will learn how to create these new words, which then can be converted back to planets. And then you get your information. And then to test this, so coming back to this, to test this, what we did was we actually took real data and tried to compare. So we know that the bird model that has been created and does the simulations, it's fundamentally right, and it has the right physics behind it, so we know that it can represent more or less well what we see in space. There's a few things, of course, which are not exactly the same, and there's a lot to learn still. We have limited information, but so far it represents relatively well the phenomena we see in space. So that being said, what we really did to test the AI was we gave it a problem, like a real system we detected first with tests. So this is actually an historically interesting system, because when it was firstly discovered, so they discovered one bigger planet around the star. And this bigger planet was characterized later because they thought it was interesting. So they came back with a second mission to actually observe it and characterize it. Turns out there were two more there, like out of the blue, years later. So what we said, it would be fun if at the time the people by test, they came back to us and they told us like, oh, what does your model tell us? Is there something to look for? And we would be able to, if like the AI worked properly, we would be able to tell them, yeah, actually, yes, look for two planets which are going to be orbiting like more or less at this distance with this Mars. And in the end, our model was able to predict more or less well the distance to the star, but the mass was actually not the best.
Oh, really?
We were a little bit, I mean, you see the curves and the distributions. We were a little bit overestimating the mass of these planets. It was still in the realm of the type of planets that they were. So these two planets that were later discovered were super Earths. So they are smaller than the previous one that was discovered, which was a sub-Neptune. So a little bit bigger. Yeah, names.
We have such a limited scope, don't we? We're like, we're going to run out of planets pretty quick.
Yeah. But basically, they were smaller. So that's why, because the mission was not as precise as the second one who came to observe, they were not discovered. But then we knew about their existence. We came back to the first data that we had, and we could see tiny little dips in the light.
Aha! They are there.
Exactly. So we could see the tiny little bits of the light curve, and that was when it was like very cool that we saw like the two other planets. And the algorithm actually performed surprisingly well with so little information. I mean, 2 parameters are of course not enough to characterize planets, but these 2 parameters, as they are very important, they already have some kind of intuition about these correlations. And they allow you to already understand a little bit of the architecture of space,
Yeah. Well, we wouldn't know they existed otherwise. I mean, the reality is we wouldn't know to look for them, would we? I mean,
yeah. I mean,
well, and I love the back and forth, the way it's like you look, you record, you try your model, you look again, you make your changes, and then now it's going the other way, where we're starting to see the model's going to go like, hey, you should be seeing something. You're like, oh yeah, I love that it goes back and forth.
So the new version now actually is adapted to a new mission that is going to go to space by ESA at the end of the year. So it's called Plato, and this mission is way more precise.
Yeah,
so it has.
I've seen it. I've seen the satellite. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, beautiful. So many cameras. It's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So it has all of these cameras, telescopes, and basically they're going to be pointed into a region of the sky. So it's going to observe a lot of stars at the same time, but with a very, very good precision, because it's going to be looking for quite a while.
Yeah.
And the
idea, the same chunk of space, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so they call it a Plato field. So it's really a region in the sky in which they are observing for a lot of time. And the idea now is that these telescopes are way more accurate than the things before, and we are now trying to go to the next step, which is trying to go for more terrestrial kind of like planets, which are smaller, so their signals are a little bit harder to see. And if you spend a bit of time, you are more able to see it.
So you're looking for new Earths, basically.
Yeah, exactly. At least, in the size and in the mass. If they are really new words in terms of what defines the Earth, that's another story.
Right.
But the idea now is to actually use this mission, and they are going to observe a lot of things, and we want to use all the information to kind of improve the model, but at the same time infer, not for the mission, but to do follow-ups, because now imagine they are observing one star, they discover one planet, and it's one big one. And we could say okay, maybe we could come back with one of the other techniques or with the telescopes on the ground and kind of observe to see the other planets that the AI model is predicting. So I did this new version that is capable of taking the quantities that Plato is going to observe. So the radius, like the size, and the period, which is like more or less a proxy to the distance of to the star.
Right.
And
like how long it takes to get around gets you a sense of how.
Exactly.
Okay,
but it's in a certain way a proxy to this like distance to the star. And we are going to use this to feed into the AI model that before actually was with the mass and with the semi-major axis. But now we change the variables and we're going to see what it predicts. And we did the same example as we did before with the other system that I told you about. And it turns out that actually it was better at predicting the radius than actually the mass, which is quite which is quite interesting as a result per se. Yeah. So
because normally would you find mass easier to predict than the radius?
Well, mass is actually complicated. There's way more uncertainties in the mass than in the radius in general. So the Burn model in general, it has tendency to overestimate a bit the mass.
Right.
So
we know tweak the AI model to take that into account then? Is that?
Well, we could actually, but I think the idea for me, it's more in the sense that the AI model is trained on something that we know is good for now, but in the future, in the future, if there's something even better, then we just need to train it again with new data. So we are not really changing the fundamental data set behind it or the algorithm. And I think that's the better strategy anyways for the moment. But
where do you, sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, the probabilities are still quite good in the sense. I mean, it still was the same kind of planet, so that's good for the business as usual kind of job we do. Right,
like you don't want to add noise to it to make it easier for you. You want the model to be as accurate as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. At some point we got to go back and figure out how you got into all this, because I'm like, actually, no, let's do that now. So AI, it's everywhere now. I get it. Like, I mean, it makes sense. I could see why people would get into it now. How did you end up in it? Because this would have been before all the hype and everything, right? I mean, what sort of drew you to all of this from aerospace engineering? I mean,
actually, I started before the hype. There was still already a little bit of it was coming slowly to the point in which there was going to be some hype, but I started studying AI way before COVID. And I came into it because was by chance, but when I was starting my university degree, I just had gone to CERN for the first time, and I was quite excited about.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I was quite excited about particle physics and all of this. And I kind of like attended a lecture in physics, and I talked to the professor, and turns out he was the head of the laboratory in Portugal, which works directly with CERN.
Oh, wow.
And then he was telling me that they had like these summer internships, and they had projects for like 2 months with a few people in the institute, and if I was really motivated, that I could go there. And I went, and I was really like, I'm going to work with particle physics and everything, and they actually gave me machine learning. And I was like, okay.
What?
So yeah, exactly. I did not expect this. And I was like, okay, that's
to what extent? What were they asking you to do?
So, I mean, what they asked me was that they wanted to study cosmic rays and cosmic showers. So basically, the cosmic ray, it's like this particle charged in space and is advancing, and it's going to collide with the particles in our atmosphere. And then it's going to create a cascade of particles. And the particle that originates this can be different. So it can be either a proton or a photon. And what they wanted to do is that they wanted to build this telescope and detector in Chile, in the Atacama deserts, in which they would observe these cosmic showers. And they needed a way, when the showers ended up on the lens, to actually distinguish between what is the original particle, because they wanted to do studies for this. and what would be the effect of like having a photon generating the shower compared to having a proton generating the shower. But this is actually quite difficult. When you look into the detectors, you see more or less the same kind of signals. So they would see like these electrical spikes of the particles passing by, but it was mostly that you could see something sometimes a little bit more compact, or something sometimes a little bit more spread. And this would give you an indication, but it was not enough. So what they did was that they fit all the information that they created synthetically into a machine learning algorithm that I trained, and then I was supposed to kind of like distinguish both of them. And that's what actually put me into machine learning. And I loved it. I mean, it was amazing how the algorithm could actually distinguish the two showers, like in a way.
It blows me away. Yeah.
And that was the moment I was really excited about machine learning. And then, of course, I followed all the courses that were really linked to machine learning. But it was really the moment in which it was starting to go up, because it has been there since like more than 50 years. It's just that there were moments that it went a little bit up and then down and up and down, and this was the moment it was going up again, and then it exploded when OpenAI kind of like showed ChatGPT to the public, and well, you know the state we are currently.
And now it's insane. Now I can't keep track of it.
Exactly.
I wonder if you have the same. I don't know whether this is an innately human issue or whether this is just me feeling like an imposter. But I feel a bit like when there's a slight guilt that I have when AI does something for me. I feel like, oh, I should have learned that better. I should have understood that better. That it, do you ever feel that it's getting ahead of you, or you've just understand it enough that it doesn't, what's happening?
I mean, I understand it relatively well to not be worried when I'm actually using this thing and not feeling really the imposter syndrome. But I use it also mostly to write all the things that I don't want to write in polite English or something. When you want to do an email to some colleague or something.
Yeah, as long as you know that what it's saying is not nonsense, then you're then fantastic. That's why you need that expertise. I mean, that's wonderful.
I tried already to code with it and everything, and I mean the first results I had were actually not very good.
Yeah, me too.
I remember that when it started to be a thing, I asked it to code the project that I do with Oliver. I asked it like really give the specification.
Don't tell Oliver that.
I mean, he knows. I actually showed them. It was very funny because in the end it was like import asteroids,
right?
And then it did like this weird curve, like with a cosine and a sine, and it pretended this was an asteroid. And then it was like loading Lisa, and then it did something weird with the satellites, and then it was generating this noise and this signal which had nothing to do with what we were working on. I didn't understand anything.
Right.
And in the end I was like, okay, so it's going to take a while.
What do you use for this stuff now? Are you using Claude Code and stuff, or what's your?
I moved to Claude, but I used to use ChatGPT at the time, and I heard that Copilot is actually not that bad to write code.
It's funny. I prefer Claude. Well, I mean, again, I'm doing obviously nothing as spectacular as that, but I've been playing with some Python stuff and some Rust, and just trying to automate little things for myself. And I mean, it's great. I do feel a little sense of loss in that when I was using the chat version, I would cut and paste, and then I'd understand what was going on as I went. Whereas now I feel like it's a bit of a sort of stepping back, going like, okay, you go fix that.
But I mean, I tried now recently to create something simple. I mean, that I could control to see to what point it actually was doing a good job. I did not go through all the tests that I wanted, but I mean, it's improving. I mean, it's improving quite a lot.
Extraordinary. Yeah.
I
have it. I had it built. I was trying to figure out my RSS feeds because I have all these different emails that come in. I like to do a little email every week, and I want to know what stories there are and pick a few stories that I like. So I started researching RSS readers, and I got overwhelmed and went and literally said to Claude, write me an RSS feed reader that will pull from these sources. And it like literally within 2 or 3 goes, it had it up and running for me. So I just use that now. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually improving quite a lot. But I think the difference that needs to be really distinguished when it's doing these things is that it can do things that it already saw before. So websites,
Yes.
these kind of things,
Yeah.
it is going to master it very fast.
Yes.
Even it's going to be a great tool for web developers to build websites and everything.
For the grunt work, it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for the boring work, for the things that exist, for implementing algorithms that are already written, this kind of thing is going to be like even better than a programmer. That is clear. In very,
I
very
feel
soon,
bad.
if not
I feel bad for people doing
the thing is,
programming.
being a programmer is way more than that. I mean,
Yeah.
and when you do research, this is another new level. You're creating the algorithm. It doesn't exist, you know. So you can use, but it's not going to really build the thing for you. And that's what the example with the code that I did for Oliver, I mean, that was the perfect example for it. It can help you debug. It can help you in a lot of ways, but it's not going to do it for you. And
it's still not the magic bullet, is it? It's still not going to.
Exactly. It's not at that point, and I think it's going to take a while until it actually is somewhat reasonably at that point. And even that,
like, I mean, again, even just the chat we've just had about the sort of the planet hunting. The reality is, it's not telling you if there's planets there or not. It's just telling you where to look, and it's also, you know, it still needs the data to build on this stuff. I'm very optimistic about it. I do, but at the same time, I'm also, I mean, I think there's definitely some changes happening in the way the academic world is exciting to me, because I see people who are like, I've got friends who are entomologists. They don't want to program. You know, they have very specific things that they need that they could automate, like, you know, motion detection and stuff, so that while they're studying their insects, now they've got tools available to them that they just wouldn't have had otherwise, because they'd be doing it by hand. That kind of stuff is extraordinary to me. I mean, it's sort of the same thing. Instead of looking for stars, they're looking at, you know, how spiders mate, or whatever they're studying. So, you know, I got some weird friends. They're great.
I mean, that seems very cool, honestly.
It's pretty neat. Yeah. Well, yeah. They literally break down the movements and the sounds that they're using on the webs to see how they communicate, and what's a fight, what's a flight, it's fascinating.
So cool.
Okay. So they asked you to do the machine learning side at CERN, which was a surprise to you. Had you not, so you had no other experience you just had programming experience, obviously, but what experience did you have going into that?
Well, I learned it a lot from scratch. I mean, it was this laboratory. This was still not the moment I was truly at CERN, so that came later, and I mean that I am currently in a certain way. But I mean, it was the moment in which they had like some notebooks, and they gave it to me, and they told me like, this is machine learning. You have a lot of things online to look for, and now understand it. And that was the moment that I barely knew Python. Yeah, I barely knew Python. I mean,
is it Python fabulous? Oh, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, but I mean, I'm an aerospace engineer, so we are quite traditional. So I learned C first, and it was like, it was when I joined Python, I was like, okay, there's something which doesn't have segmentation faults all the time. This is amazing.
I don't know what that means, but
I mean, that means that you did not allocate the right memory for the
oh god, that stuff. Yeah,
so
I don't.
Breaks the
I don't have the attention span for that stuff. So that's why I love Python, is someone else has already figured out. I feel like it's like Python to me is like a giant Lego play mat. And I'm just going, ooh, what's that? Ooh, what does that do? And stacking them all together, you know?
But I mean, if you're trying to do Rust now, you need to allocate a few things too. I mean,
right. So. Well, and also good luck getting AI time now. How does that work? You've got to be, because memory is expensive now. Hard drive space is so your research just got more expensive and harder to do.
Yeah. I mean, for the moment we are fine, because what we are training, it actually runs in my computer. But
nice. Okay.
Yeah. So now the new versions that we want to do, we want to include more properties of the planets. And as soon as you do this, I mean, it goes exponentially in terms of cost and in terms of training time and everything. And that means that at some point we just need to go to a cluster. And this is kind of like expensive, as you said. So yeah, I mean, it is delicate.
You're not at a cluster yet? You're not.
I am for the burn model, but I mean, for the massive one with more than 20 years. But I mean, I did not put this one in a cluster for now. I really ran it on my Mac. It takes around 1 hour to train, and it's fine.
Yeah, because then I guess are using the M series. So you've got the what is it? The integrated memory. So
the ARMA architecture.
Fantastic. Yeah.
I'm using the M2. And I mean, it's an older version, and it runs actually quite fast for
Mm.
this small version, let's say.
Right. Well, people
But
are stacking up the Mac Studios with 128 gigs and creating
mm,
little clusters that will run their AI models now because it's cheaper than going and investing in. Although
yeah.
do you use Google Colab at all? Have you used any of that? Can you use that for? Does
Well,
that?
Oliver tried to make me use, but not so much.
The only reason why I like it is that I can have access to basically, cards that I wouldn't have access to otherwise. I stopped using it too because frankly, my wife saw the bill. So, yeah,
Well, I like to run things locally, that I install my
no, I
things
think
and
that's
know
great.
exactly where.
Well, and that's the future too. Like it seems to me like we're heading towards a time where you're going to have specific models that do specific things that you can run locally rather than having to, you know, destroy rainforests in the process or whatever it is. So,
Yeah, no, I prefer local. I mean, it's way more controllable. You know what you're doing exactly.
Well, and you have to learn a whole other interface as well, which is I find
Yeah.
the Google stuff is less than intuitive, shall we say?
Yeah,
It tends
yeah.
to be.
As well, as well.
I love that you're using the Mac though. That's fabulous because it was just it was always PCs in the science world for so long. So,
I
okay,
think now
so
it changed quite a lot. Now
I
it's
think
more Macs.
so.
Yeah.
Well, and then ARM's just announced a new processor of their own as well. So hopefully that'll make for some nice AI systems, nice cheap AI systems in the future too. But okay, so let's go back again. So before you ended up at CERN doing machine learning, what were your you wanted to do particle physics and stuff. Where were your dreams? Like, how did you got into this? Why? Like, why did you get into the sciences in the first place?
I mean, I don't know how to answer that.
Really?
I mean, I knew I wanted to be an engineer. I really liked physics. I really liked mathematics,
Right.
and I really liked space.
Right.
And
It's hard not to, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I realized that I wanted to go to something related to space when I was like 15, and my parents took me to the US, to Florida, and we went to Cape Canaveral at the time, and I saw the rocket.
Wow. Oh my God, that'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you see the rockets and you have a garden of rockets instead of tree, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I could do this.
But
And
did
that
you
was
want to
a
be an
bit.
astronaut?
Well, there was a time in which, yes, I think nowadays, being more realistic, I don't think I could be an astronaut. But I mean, yeah, that was the turning point in which I said, like, I really want to do some engineering, but yeah, aerospace would be so cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the planes actually entered way later in my life, because I did aerospace, and aerospace in Portugal, where I started, was actually mostly about planes.
Right,
So at the time,
that's where the money is, right?
Yeah, at the time I didn't like planes. I was tired of planes.
Right.
I really wanted the courses about space, and we had a few about physics, and we had astrophysics. So I went for these. And then I was working with this lab, and I was doing machine learning, so it was also quite cool. But then when I actually went into science was really with Oliver, because at some point there was COVID, and ESA did these internships online.
Right.
And because they were online, I thought, like, I'll apply. I mean, in general, I would have not. I mean, being in aerospace by itself, it's quite complicated, and our exam period was not matching at all with internships or anything.
Right.
But because it was online, I applied. And then in the end, Oliver decided to pick me for some reason. And you can ask him why, but yeah. And decided to pick me, and then we started working together in this project. It was supposed to last 6 months. Well, we are almost now at 5 years. I mean,
wow.
So, and we are very soon publishing our first paper, which is quite cool.
And fantastic. When's that coming out?
Well, we are going to submit this Friday, if I manage to finish the thing, the new revised version.
How are you talking to us? How do you have time to do any of this?
Well, the time doesn't work the same way for me as
obviously not. Obviously not.
But I mean,
so Friday you submitted?
We submitted again. So we already submitted the first time in January. We got comments of somebody saying like what we could change that would improve the paper, and now we are finishing these changes and then submitting again, and it's going to pass a second round of like analyzing, and if it passes through, then it is accepted and it's going to be published. That's a little bit the way it works.
And is this the is this your work with asteroids, or is this your work
Yeah.
with the? Yeah. So, well, let's get into that then. Let's do it. Asteroid. This sounds so bizarre to me, but I love that you and Oliver have come up with this crazy idea of detecting asteroids with gravitational waves.
Yeah. So
is that right?
Well, not exactly scientifically speaking, but I mean,
luckily
you
I'm
want
not.
to do
I
that,
do the
sure.
fake science. You do the real stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, basically, this project was an ESA internship project, and the idea was basically you have this laser mission that he talked about. So of course, in his podcast, and this mission is going to go to space at some point, and it's going to try to detect big events like black holes and these kind of things. So, and for
this
that
is the series of satellites that are connected by beams of light.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. For laser beams. Exactly.
Laser beams. That's it. Yeah.
And basically, it's going to be in space listening for these waves. They're going to pass at some point, and they're going to perturb a little bit these laser beams in a certain
Could you explain the waves? Because the waves are, to me, extraordinary. Like, this is something that just absolutely boggles my mind.
I mean, I think the easiest way to visualize it, and this is the way I use it because otherwise I cannot understand it. It's imagine that you're on a lake that is really completely flat. Nothing is moving. And at some point you throw a rock, and that's going to do the waves in the surface.
Right.
And if you look at where the lake finishes in the land, that's where your detector is. And I mean, in the lake, basically at some point the waves are going to dissipate, and there's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And if you're lucky enough, the event appears actually close to the border, you're going to see it touching. So now you need to imagine that the detectors are at the border, but there's no dissipation. So it's basically you throw the rock, and the effect is going to be seen in the full lake everywhere. Wow. So this is a little bit what happens with gravitational waves, but now in 3D because the lake is 2D. That's a little bit the way I would describe it personally. But I mean, sure, like gravitational wave people, they have different opinions on how to describe this.
Yeah.
But
so
basically,
sorry.
Basically, this is a bit the idea. And the asteroids, it's a little bit different than this. It's actually something completely different. So LISA is going to be waiting for this kind of waves. It's basically at the end of the lake, and it's really waiting for the perturbation that arrives, and it changes a little bit the light beams. Right. So because it's passing, it's going to really extend a little bit or compress a little bit one of the light beams, and then you can see these measurements in your detector, and you can account for the effects that did it. So that's the way. And different kinds of effects, they have different kinds of ways they change these light beams. That's a little bit
because these are huge beams of light. I mean, these are lasers. They're
But they need to be, otherwise you wouldn't
pick it up.
Exactly. So the asteroid is actually a little bit different. So it doesn't kind of interact with any of these gravitational waves that we're talking about. What it does is that you have these test masses that are inside the satellites, and these are the ones that are doing the real magic, because these are the ones that are going to feel the changes in this space because of these waves, and they're going to move. Well, the logic behind the asteroid is actually different. So that would mean that you have the asteroid passing by, and if it passes close enough, it will actually attract a little bit. So it's going to make them move too. It's just in a different principle. You see, it's really attraction. And if it passes close enough, it can attract so much so that it moves just enough for us to see it in the detector as well. That is a little bit the principle behind it, and that's what we did. So, I mean, you can imagine there's a lot of satellites in the sky, asteroids in the sky, and they're all very far away. I mean, then asteroids, they are too small also. I mean, most of them are actually not going to do any signal. So you need to first say that you restrain yourselves for the ones that are close. So this would be the near Earth asteroids, because LISA is
the ones we worry about, to be fair. Yeah,
exactly. The ones we worry about. Exactly. And because LISA is going to be in an orbit which is quite similar to the Earth, then you need to look for these ones precisely. So this is the good point. So basically, you're looking for the things that might be dangerous for us.
Yeah, I'm sold.
And the second thing is they need to be massive enough and close enough so that we actually see them. And
What
if
is
that
close by you in these space terms?
close, it can be as close as, in a very ideal scenario, 50,000 kilometers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Or it can be as far as half an astronomical unit.
Wow.
Depends a
Well,
little
that's a
bit
pretty good
if,
range for us.
yeah, it depends a little bit if it is really massive or not. I mean, if it
Right.
is something that is really massive, then you're going to see it from afar. If it is
Right.
something that is really small and not so massive, then you need it to be very close.
Mm.
And actually, we took one of the asteroids that is currently there. We actually took a few of them from the population that is there that we know, and we did the test. So we started by putting them close to LISA. We did a very ideal scenario.
This is
because
in some kind of a simulation you've created.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
some
okay.
kind of
I see. Yeah,
simulation.
yeah.
So the idea was that we wanted really to find what is the best kind of signal we could get from this, to see what kind of like science would be learned from this. So what we did is we put it at what we call the minimum orbital distance. This is MOID. So it's basically you take the two orbits and you find the point in which the two bodies are the closest together.
Right.
And we put the spacecraft there, we put the asteroid there, and we then calculated the signal. You make them move a little bit so that they actually encounter themselves in this minimum distance. And you see, and then what you see is that actually a few of them, if we encounter them in this point, we would be able to do measurements which are quite precise, up to the point that we would have an extreme uncertainty, an extreme precision on the mass. Because I mean, this is something which is really detecting gravitational waves, so it can detect quite well.
The bigger they are, the more the signal you're going to get, right?
Exactly. So this is the results that we are publishing now. It's basically the results of these simulations that we did, that we could characterize them quite well. And for a few of them, we are not able to characterize really that well, but we are able to contribute in a certain way with some information. And I mean, the results for what we got was really that, I mean, we could contribute to a few percentage, we are very accurate to a few percentage in terms of mass, which is incredibly good. Because in general, I mean, this is the information that you lack when you're detecting asteroids. You have zero information about the mass. It can be very massive. It can have holes in all directions and not massive at all. But you will not know it because you observe it with telescopes and you take pictures. I mean, it tells you nothing. This is something that complements quite well the current catalog with the current asteroids.
Right.
So so that's a bit the studies. The funny thing was that we actually got the question by the referee. I mean, how many then are we actually supposed to see with LISA? I mean, is it even worth to the study?
Right.
And in the end, our current estimates for this is actually not that bad. We think that we could see a couple of them, actually.
Wow.
Yeah,
a couple of massive asteroids, and we would know exactly what their mass are, and obviously how fast they're going, and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and then there's going to be a bit more uncertainty in the orbit because we only see it once and we see it very fast, but we would be very precise in the mass, and this is actually an incredible result out of this study. And to actually think that in a few years LISA is going to be in space, and maybe one asteroid is going to pass by and we're going to be able to do it, it's amazing. I mean,
well, and it wasn't, if I'm right, LISA wasn't designed for this.
Not at all.
Like you're like hopping on the old LISA bandwagon and using it in a way that they hadn't planned on using it.
Yeah. I mean,
I love that.
Oliver used to say that, I mean, what is noise for some people is actually signal for others.
Yeah.
That's a little bit the saying, and that's exactly what we're doing. I mean, they have all their primary objectives, and this is not at all planned as an objective for the mission, but I mean, we could, the fact that it is there, that the data is going to come, I mean, we might as well just really go for it and get all the information, and we can really get to actually really complement other fields even. I mean, it's amazing.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's a bit like sort of a scientist looking out into space, and you're tapping them on the shoulder and going like, hey, look over there. You know what I mean? It's like, there's some cool stuff over this way too. That's fantastic. And how did that even come about? Is that something, do they say are they looking for people to do this kind of thing? Or is this just something you and Oliver were chatting about?
No, I think, I mean, the story is more it's funnier than that. I think this just, I mean, let's say ESA wants to do internships to actually give the feeling to young people like me to actually go and do science. So, or go and do engineering or this kind of thing. So they need small projects. And I think at the time Oliver had like a possibility to have an intern, and he looked for an idea, and probably there was some liquid ethanol involved in this discussion to get this idea. I mean, I don't know exactly, but and I think at some point he thought that maybe this would be something very fun to do. But I mean, of course, this wouldn't kind of justify all the funds for one specific project, but it would be something quite fun that you could try to do in the summer. Turns out that, I mean, it's a project that takes more than 5 years.
It's a long summer.
Exactly.
Although, to be fair, Oliver's a lot of fun to hang out with. I could see wanting to extend it as long as
we have
as
a
long
lot
as
of fun
possible.
in our meetings. I mean, really. But I mean, I mean, we did way more studies than that. I mean, the second one that is probably not coming out soon because we need to actually refine it a bit, was to see, I mean, what if we actually don't see these objects in the best position ever or with the best signal ever? Do we actually still see them? And the study kind of allows you to see some kind of region of influence around the satellite of LISA that is able to pick up. So even if the asteroid is passing by, but it's really not exactly at the points, it can be seen. So this is a little bit the second study we are doing. For some of them it's not possible. For a few of them it's possible. And it depends also, of course, I mean, if they are massive or not. But this also raises the question of like, what if LISA can see something that we did not see yet?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's also a possibility. And nobody knows this. I mean, most of the population that we are probing for the moment and the results that we have shows us that, I mean, these asteroids, they are even not known yet completely. I mean, more than 35% or even more than that, so that have a radius of 500 meters, which is something quite nice. They have not been discovered yet. So that means, I mean, in the end, you could see even things that you didn't see before. So,
Yeah. So it's, and the thing I also love about science is it's like, if even nothing is something. I mean, even that will give you information on the state of asteroids in our solar system or whatever. I mean, that's amazing. I love also that it's because you're sort of like hitching a ride on the whole LISA thing. This is just added value for it, right? I mean, this is just because it's no extra cost other than, I guess, the work that you're doing and the processing of the data. You don't require any big complicated satellite stuff other than it's already there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean,
fantastic.
That's amazing. That's a very fun project. I really like it.
Oh, I love it. It's like MacGyvering. It's like you're like MacGyver. You're adding things to the satellites that you're a hacker. You're a hacker. That's basically, that's what they do, right? You're taking something that's meant for one thing and using it for something else. That's fantastic. Okay, so and when what is the process for papers? Like I've never really quite understood this. So you will submit this to journals or open journals or what? How does that work? Who looks at this stuff?
So that depends a bit on the fields. I mean, I'm very new in this, but from what I gather is basically you have journals for astrophysics and you submit it. And basically you're going to have a first review by the editor to see if it is complete trash or not. So if it is something that is
to see if you just shoved it into machine learning and it spat it out. Oh my God, they've got to be dealing with that too now.
Oh yeah, of course.
Right.
That's very complicated.
Sideline. Yep.
But I mean, basically that's a bit, so you give it first and the editor is going to be, I mean, they are not going to really read it or proof it or something. They're just going to see like, this seems like something that could be interesting for us.
Right.
And if it is, so it continues to the next phase, that is going to be a review by a referee or several, even depends a bit on the journal. And this is basically an expert in a field that is linked to the research you're doing.
Right.
And he's going to like read the text and he's going to ask a bunch of questions or like say some comments saying like, okay, this part is confusing, I don't get it, maybe in here you did not consider this, maybe in here you should change this. And basically you receive this report and it kind of has some kind of recommendation in the end saying like, I think this is something that could be published and could be relevant, or it will say something like, no, I read this paper and this is something that has been already done before, or is really not that relevant, so it shouldn't pass to the next phase.
Right. But this hasn't been done before.
So the This asteroid thingy, there was the paper that I sent you.
Yeah.
So there's like an initial study, but apart from that initial study, maybe I'm wrong, but from what I gather, I did not see yet anything really going further.
Right.
I mean,
and certainly no one's using LISA data for it.
no,
Yeah.
I mean, Lisa is not even launched, but
Exactly.
but yeah, so then you get this report and you have the time to answer. So it's up for the people to think like, okay, the comments, they are something that I can do, so I'll bother trying to understand them and change the paper. So that it makes the referee happy in a sense, or the paper is, I mean, that actually makes the paper better in a sense.
Yeah.
And then you resubmit it. So that's the phase that we are at, and this second point. So basically then this can kind of continue. This situation can continue until really the person or the people on the other side say that it is now good to publish, so you can advance to the next phase. And then it's basically the editor that comes back, that checks the English, checks that it's the right format, that it makes sense, decides the category in the journal in which it goes to. And
they'll decide on the journal as well for you.
They decide in the category. So the journal is actually you are the one who chooses which journal you want to publish.
Can you say which journal you're?
For us, it's astronomy and astrophysics, or the other way around. I never know which one is coming first. It's called ANA, basically. And this is the typical...
Again, the name, you guys suck at naming. Yeah.
Well, just remember, I'm an engineer first.
Yeah, engineer first, naming next. Yeah.
The astrophysics people. But yeah. And this is the journal we are going for, and it's actually one of the ones that my colleagues usually use here in Bern as well.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's got to be great.
Yeah, at least this is the process that I know. Then for AI, it's usually actually for conferences. They have more or less a similar way, but it's more proceedings in conferences, which count quite a lot, And then you go to a conference, you present a paper, and yeah. But I mean, it depends quite on the field. And I mean, journals are also quite nice in AI and everything. So, but yeah, it's more or less usually this kind of procedure.
The journal sounds a lot more, sort of, relaxed, well, not relaxed, obviously, because it's obviously, I know it's going to be stressful, but as opposed to the conference thing where I just feel like there's so much noise of the AI stuff now, like I can't tell what's legit and what's not anymore.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, they have real issues with these kind of things. And I mean, you saw in also the homework that I'm analyzing proposals this week for CERN, and we actually when we are reading these proposals, so this is for an experiment that CERN is doing with high school students.
Yeah.
And when we
need to talk about that too, that high school students are being given access to a particle accelerator. I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah, and and when we are seeing this, I mean, it's sometimes quite hard to know, I mean, if they are written by AI, I mean, quite hard in a certain way and not in another one. I mean, some of them are evident that they wrote it. Yeah, I mean, when you start reading things which are very complex in terms of English, that really have all those keywords that even yourself you're doubting, I mean, for non-native English speakers for sure, but they really use like these very big words that mean nothing. Yeah. And then you continue reading the proposal and you don't even understand what they are trying to test or do or anything, then you see it's really AI at some point.
God, that's a shame though, because you'd think at that point, when you're applying to that kind of stuff, well, I guess you're in high school. I suppose they've got to figure it out.
You're in high school. I think it's, I mean, there's a lot of them which are really very, very cool. And honestly, some of them I read and I think, whoa, in high school, I did not think about any of these things.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, that's, you know what, big part of that, YouTube. I mean, the fact of the matter is if you want to, I mean, maybe not just YouTube, but certainly on YouTube, you can basically find a niche about anything. So the kids, once they're interested in something, they've got access to all sorts of, information about it. Yeah. Any standout ones that you were like, wow, what's the, or are you allowed to say anything now or?
Well, this year I cannot, I did not read a lot of them yet. I still have a bit of time for, but last year there were a few were actually amazing. I mean, I personally like more the ones that are trying to use the accelerator, but not necessarily just for like particle physics that are trying to kind of do some knowledge transfer. And I
Mm.
saw a few of them in which they wanted to test materials for building satellites. And that was, I mean, first of all, was close to my heart in a certain way, but I really liked the way they really approached the project. They said like, okay, this would be the typical material, but we want to test this one because it would be maybe something more interesting, it's lighter and everything. And they really did their work. I mean, they started to study, I mean, what are the problems we have with radiation in satellites? And they exposed the case in which they really showed like these materials could be interesting, but they are not typically used. And what we could do is try to test them and see if it is something that could resist radiation or not. There was also another one which was about cancer treatment therapies. There's like this experiment at CERN that is trying to do that already.
Is that your cancer sniper? Is that the radioisotopes that are being used to?
Yeah. So they wanted to do.
That blew my mind. That was amazing. That article. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, so
feel free.
basically,
Yeah.
they wanted to do the same, but they wanted to use different materials to simulate different compositions or different parts of the human body. Like the skin would be represented by a layer of whatever material they chose. Then there would be the fat, which was another layer. Then there was the bone, and they wanted really to see how much it could go through and everything. And I found it was amazing, honestly. They really did their job. They really looked for the materials. They really studied everything. And I was like really surprised.
Wow.
Like,
yeah, it is amazing. There's no limit to what you can learn now if you have the interest. That's why I feel like when I was doing more of the Tech Bandit stuff, my mission was basically just to get someone excited about something. I wasn't going to teach them anything because the reality is I don't know it. And also, just if you could just get them excited enough to start looking stuff up, that's the key. Yeah, that's so. And how did you get involved in that? You were at CERN for the internship, and then that led to this outreach stuff that you're doing.
So I was.
You had so much free time, like.
Yeah, I do have a lot of free time. No, I was at CERN actually 3 times.
Right.
So the first one was when I was in high school, and they did for 2-3 years this program in which they would invite high school students, like one per country of the member states, to come to CERN and spend 2 weeks inside CERN. They have like an hotel, they have restaurants, they have facilities for everything. And basically there was this team which was from the education department, which was in charge of us, and they gave us lectures and a project, and basically we spent like 2 weeks there really enjoying CERN. I remember it being extremely intense, and I remember being running on coffee during that time.
Right. The story of my life. Yeah.
It was awesome because the project that we did in the end was like we could choose, and I remember I ended up soldering and building my own pocket particle detector. So it was this tiny thing that you could connect to your phone, and it would measure like the muons passing by. And you would really get a counting. There was an app in the phone and everything, and it would.
What sensor were you using for that?
What? Sorry?
What sensor? Like, how would you detect them?
I don't even remember. I mean, it was.
I've only seen the ones where you've got the gel in the tube. And then
no, it was not something like that. It was really like this soldering plate in which you put it like a few resistor capacitors and the detector. And I don't remember exactly the type of it. And
that's amazing.
We connected everything. So we were really soldering and then doing all the electrical connections. And in the end, we connected it to the phone, and it was giving you the particle detectors.
Oh, God. It's the best feeling, isn't it?
I remember it was amazing. I was doing that, and I was showing to all my people, because it was a pocket thing, you could bring it everywhere. Yeah. So I was like showing everybody that I had like a particle detector in my hand and everything. So this was the first time. And I remember that time was the moment like I went to CERN, I got to know CERN. I did not know a lot before that. So I really dived. I explored the antimatter factory at the time with the Portuguese and everything. So, and for these 2 weeks, I had a lot of fun. I met a lot of interesting people, and it kind of gave me the need to come back one day.
Oh my God, yeah.
So
you had the curiosity already. They just fed it. Yeah,
exactly. They were throwing me everything for me to have even more curiosity. So then when I was in university in France, because at some point I moved to do a second master's in France.
Right.
And when I did this, basically they allowed me to have some free time during the summer to do an internship in a research institute.
Right.
And I told them that the research institute that I wanted was CERN, and I applied, and I actually got in for like this summer program they had, which is summer students. And basically you are going to CERN, and now in a more advanced stage, of course, and they give you like a project for 3 to 4 months. And you also have lectures if you want, but you are really integrating a team at CERN doing something.
Right.
And I ended up doing websites for that team, which was very fun.
How did you do? Why websites?
Because I mean, they kind of like opened like a pool for people to apply for this, but they did not give a specific project. And then they would kind of like select the people and adjust the skills and kind of like distribute the projects to the different people. And in my skills at the time, there was web development, because I had done a website for a company at some point, and they picked up on this one, aerospace engineer with machine learning, and then website for like 2 months, and they picked on this one to actually put me at CERN to do websites.
And how did you feel about that? I think I would have been like, really?
No, it was quite fun, because I integrated the engineering department, and the team that I had was actually doing the asset management for the LHC. So I get to know a lot of things.
Oh, nice. Okay. So you had access to a lot of other stuff going on.
Yeah, I had access to a lot of things. So it was quite cool. And the team was actually quite nice. The people were amazing. Yeah. And in the end, I actually met back with the team of the education at that point. And then basically this team asked me at some point, one of the people on this team asked me at some point if I didn't want to actually stay and do this kind of projects of outreach, like with the skills that I have, like for example, for AI. I mean, sometimes they want to do these activities, and it would be nice to have somebody who knows a little bit about AI to help them. And at the same time, I was doing a PhD. Well, I already had started a PhD, so I was already in Switzerland. I mean, there was no problem for them to actually allow me to have the possibility to come back and do outreach for them. So that was the time I joined again. So I joined this program, which is Beamline for schools, as well as an evaluator. So I'm really low at hierarchy, but basically the idea is like you have volunteers like me who have a certain set of skills, which evaluate for the first time the proposals they get from all these kids in school.
Right.
And then it goes to the second level, which are experts. So basically we do the first filter, then there's going to be experts that are going to do the second filter, and then there's a board who's going to decide which are the kids that are going to come and do their experiments. So
but that's nice though, because then you get the widest range of topics to start, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where I'm at now. So then I joined this project, and I then became a CERN guide as well, because I really like to do this kind of outreach. And
they can't get rid of you. You're like you're loving this CERN thing.
Yeah, exactly. They tried, very hard.
Yeah.
But basically, that's a little bit what I'm doing, like a little bit in my free time, because it's not really a contract. It's just like an external at CERN. So it's basically they allow you the possibility to come and do some activities, but they don't pay you anything. My real job is actually the PhD that I'm doing with the AI and the exoplanets. That's what I do.
That's your focus. That's your main.
That's
focus.
my main focus. Yes, exactly.
But that's quite different, though, from what the CERN stuff seems pretty different than what you're working on.
But the activities are not, science is not that different, in the end, there's a lot of things that CERN is doing that is actually having an impact in the cosmological level. Right. And also they invite people to kind of represent CERN, and it doesn't necessarily need just to be particle physics, it can be anything. So like a couple of weeks ago, I was in the schools in Geneva, like talking to kids as well, like little ones, 7, 8 years old. And I was explaining to them what it's like to be an astrophysicist, and really doing games with them for them to actually find like asteroids in the sky and these kind of things,
Oh, wow.
And this was part of like a project by CERN as well, because they just want to kind of like also share STEM, like not just particle physics, and they do a lot of like different activities that are not just like really in-depth fundamental particle physics. And of course that's their main goal, of course, but
it's funny because it's not my big concern is also that people understand that there are these jobs out there. Like if you don't know that these things exist,
Yeah,
That's why everyone's a lawyer or a doctor or a, or an
exactly. I
influencer.
mean,
Like,
Exactly, but I mean that's exactly why CERN wanted to promote these activities,
mm,
because I mean you don't start trying to influence people when they are adults. I mean they
yeah.
already chose their profession by then. They can
Mm,
change, of course, but it's way harder. You
mm,
start with the little kids, with 7, 8 years old, that want to actually have a dream, and they
mm,
usually love space at this point. They love
yeah.
science, and if you make them understand that this is something they can really understand and really be there and work on this, there's people actually doing this, that I mean that's the moment in which you change them and you
Yeah.
actually create these people working in science.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and this, like, I always think, like, there's certain gateway, there's sort of like gateway drugs for science, and like
Mm.
space is a massive one. I mean, space is like, well, obviously there's a pun there, but space is a great way to get people excited about different
Yeah,
areas of science. Yeah. And dinosaurs, another one, like for kids that age, I just find that there's
yeah,
certain
yeah,
things that they just go like, and you've got them, I
yeah,
love that.
exactly. I
And
mean
that
it's
feeling is wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, no, when I talked to them, I mean, I did it like for 4 or 5 times
Yeah.
in different schools and different classes and everything. And
Mm.
I must say that all of them, there were always kids in the end that would come to me and like bombard me with questions and
Yeah.
questions and questions. And in the end, some of them saying me like, I want to be an astrophysicist too in the future and these kind
Yeah.
of things. And you feel like you really have an impact. You're
Yeah.
really like there showing them like science and how cool it can be. And they're really motivated in the end. And it's
It's
amazing.
because I think they're innately, like, I truly believe that they're born curious. I mean, that's the very nature of, like, I don't think they would grow or mature without it. But
Yeah.
I worry that the sort of institutionalized education sometimes gives learning a bad name. Like, I think we don't
Mhm.
necessarily, people think of learning and go, oh, it's school and books and things. It's like, no, that's just, that's just for the specifics later. There's so much stuff out there. And you've got like, wow, you're like the best person to do this, because you've got so many different areas that they could be, talking about. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, because even just the stuff that you suggested for the homework, I mean, we were talking about radioisotopes that are targeted to specific cancers, and then they slowly irradiate, destroy the cancer. That's
Mm.
coming out of a particle accelerator.
Yeah.
I'd never even thought of that.
Yeah, I mean that's what I actually. So now that I'm guiding at CERN, what I like to do is like I of course do the typical like explaining the experiments at CERN and
Mm,
everything, but I
mm,
also like to focus a little bit more on the fact that we are not just doing that. I mean, there's plenty of things that are done at CERN,
yeah.
which are like helping in other fields. I mean, typically people don't know there's an experiment in the ISS, and there is. I
Yeah.
mean, one
Yeah.
experiment
Strapped
from
on the
CERN
side, isn't it?
being controlled from the control centers in CERN, but in the ISS. I
I did
mean,
not know that.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
that was
typically it's not known.
until your homework.
And yeah, exactly. So there's like people I
It's like a
remember
mini CERN on the outside of the
exactly.
station, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there's people working on robotics to actually go see the accelerator. So really like some kind of dog robots that
Oh
are
yeah, the
gonna go.
robot dogs. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that are gonna go in the accelerator and gonna examine the accelerator, like when there's defects or something or failures, when
Oh
there's like
wow.
the beam running. And I mean, they're developing their own robots. I saw them like a couple of months ago when we had like a fair, also
Oh my God, that's so
representing
cool.
CERN at that point, and we had a fair about technology, and we went there and we were showing these little dogs, and one which was like kind of like an octopus arm that was doing like very weird movements
Oh
to actually
yeah.
be able to pass between the cables all around.
Yeah, there's like soft robotics and all
Yeah,
sorts of stuff going on. And of course,
yeah, yeah,
that's another, I mean, like, AI is great for the drudge
yeah.
work, and
Yeah.
robots are good for dangerous as well, and
But
repetitive and
coming back
stuff.
on AI,
Yeah.
there was also at some point a project that I wanted to join, but then I went for the PhD. But this project was basically they wanted to use a technology that they had. So they had like some kind of like cameras, like doing the surveillance of the LHC. And
Mm,
they were picking a lot of photos. And basically, they had an AI algorithm which was analyzing these photos and looking for like abnormal features that could indicate
mm,
early probable failures coming up.
yeah. Yeah.
So I remember talking to somebody, and this guy was telling me that they use this technology and they did it for breast cancer. They were talking with the hospital in Geneva, and they were getting photos of patients that potentially had cancer or that at some points got cancer. And they had the history of the picture, the different pictures from the different times, and they wanted to apply the same technology. They were obtaining results. I mean, this was incredible knowledge transfer from one field to the other, and it was something that was happening, and I was like, wow.
Well, apparently, like the skin cancer. Apparently, skin cancer, it's better. The AI is better at identifying it, or at least an initial scan of it type thing is better than the doctors, because the doctors just don't have the time, or in many cases, you can't have expertise on everything. And that this can reduce the amount of patients that they're seeing, and they bring in the patients who do need to be seen because the AI can point this stuff out really quickly. No, it's amazing. I mean, I don't want to be too Pollyanna about AI, because I know there's issues with it, but at the same time, as long as you've got an expert making the decisions at the end of the day, I feel like, okay, that's, we're okay with that.
I think that is exactly that. We were in a roundtable last week, and I mean, not all the community is actually very happy about the fact that AI is coming in, because I mean, some of it is
quite polarizing. I mean,
it's quite polarized. And I mean, to be fair, I understand their concern. I mean, it's actually sometimes complicated to really understand what is going on. And when we want to be sure, for example, in medicine, I mean, when we want to be sure to really have a diagnostic for somebody, we really want to be trusting our algorithm at that time,
Yeah, the AI doesn't die if they get it wrong.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, the point is, like, when you're creating these algorithms, you really need to test them thoroughly, and you need to be sure that you're delivering a product that works. And I mean, it needs to really be working. Being it for medicine, which is really like lives are at stake, but being also for research. I mean, you don't want to be declaring life when you don't find life in the universe. You don't want to be detecting exoplanets when you did not see the exoplanets, You want things to be working. And the goal of the people like me, which are producing these algorithms, is actually to produce something which is trustworthy in the end. And that's what we need to do. And I mean, in the end, I do understand the fear of people. And what I usually tell is, like, there is nobody who is more a skepticist of the AI than myself when I'm creating my own codes, because that's the goal. I want to test everything, and to be able to, in the end, say, like, these are the failure points, these are the hypotheses, and this is what it does. And if you want to use it, you take it.
Well, and that's the need for it to be. I mean, it needs to be treated with science, as opposed to, or as a science, as opposed to the marketing I worry about, because the marketing promises everything. It's going to shine our shoes. It's going to go get me drinks. It
needs to be treated like a tool, which is going to work in a certain way, and it doesn't. It is not supposed to work in another way. When people are trying to do other stuff, it shouldn't work in this way, and people need to be aware what are the limitations. But apart from that, then it's a tool. If they want to use it, they use it. If they don't want to use it, they don't use it. But it is there. It's just like this that people usually don't get from this.
Are there good sources of information for this stuff? I mean, are there people who you trust, or channels or whatever that you found reliable?
There's a few people here in Switzerland that I actually attended lectures to that I found, like, quite interesting. There's a few lectures at the US in Caltech and Stanford and these kind of things, which are actually quite good. But honestly, to keep up with the AI is quite difficult. So you
need AI to keep up with the AI.
Yeah, you need AI to keep up with the AI. Yeah. So basically, I just read the papers that come out in our archive system. So it's basically a website in which gives you, like, the weekly or the daily papers that came out, and I read a little bit the abstracts and understand if it's something bullshit.
That's as far as I get. The abstracts as far as I can go, and then I'm afraid I just don't have the knowledge. That's where then I get AI to help me out with that stuff as well.
It's basically a self-assessment, and sometimes it's good. Sometimes I read something that does not make sense, and basically that's a bit it. And I mean,
if it doesn't make sense to me, I always go like, well, that's probably me.
Well, yeah, but I mean, in any case, you're not going to use something you don't understand anyways, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think but I do think that is an issue for people, because I think there's a kind of a sort of the crypto bro thing is beginning to sort of take root, where they've got these people who just profess, the vibe coding thing is something that really bothers me, because I go like, how could you put something out that if you don't know, like, if the only way to fix it is to ask the thing to fix it, like, it doesn't, I need to know how. I feel like I feel more confident if I know how how it
Yeah,
works. But look, we should do some questions because I realize I cannot believe we've been talking for like an hour and 20 minutes. I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
maybe.
It's so good. This is what I'm, yeah. And you haven't even got once the paper's out, we got to do this all over again. We'll get you and Oliver together and we'll talk about
Sure.
your paper. That would be fun. I mean, or
Yeah.
not for you. Maybe by then you'll be like, I don't want to see Oliver ever again. The
No,
paper's
no.
done.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
because we have a couple of them coming up. So until all of them are done, then I cannot like say no to Oliver. Just
exactly.
yes,
That's
of
right.
course. I
That's
would
right.
be very happy to come back with him.
He's amazing, isn't he? He's like the straight man of science. Like he's just got this, like he just does these little one-liner zingers that I just absolutely I love it. Okay. Oh, what's happened? Stream. Oh, that's odd. I was going to see if we've got questions. Here we go. Oh, there's a bunch of them. Aha! You've got people's imagination going, Sarah. Okay. Okay. The Monastery Duck says it is it's very, very interesting, and Sarah is great at explaining. Thank you. Well, that's not a question. That's just compliments.
Well, thank you.
But they're right. I mean, this is amazing. But people love your accent. That's not her. That's the accent. Okay, what is the habitable zone? This is Pink Goggles, no clue. Says, what is the habitable zone scientifically? Like, would it make sense to ever let an AI autonomously control a telescope? So two kind of
So let's address the first question
yeah.
first. So habitable zone, and the simplest definition that it has is something that is allowing for water to exist in a liquid form. So it's
Right.
basically a region around the star that has the right temperatures to allow water to be in the liquid form.
Okay.
Then it's actually a little bit more complicated than that because the habitable zone depends a bit on the conditions of the planet. So it depends if it is actually something with a lot of like greenhouse effects or not, or it's just a pure non-atmospheric planets. But it's basically the definition is really linked to water.
Okay.
And it is like a very simplistic yet already kind of gives us an intuition of what to look for in terms of life, but it's dependent on what we know here in the earth. So we assume that water is really the liquid that is really pushing life to exist on earth.
Right.
But I mean, that's as far as we know. Maybe
Right.
there's something else in the universe. So the first really this is the first kind of concept we used for looking for something which could potentially be habitable out there. But it's a very simplistic
And that will
concept.
change depending on whatever discoveries we have. If we find, in fact, that there is something in the ice on Mars or something, that could change what we're looking for. Or
exactly. I mean, it's the first thing to look for, but it's clearly not enough. So then you need to look for the energy that reaches the planet. You need to look for the composition. You need to look for the atmosphere to see if it has the right constituents. So there's a lot of things that we go for. But we start with this definition of habitable zone. We see if the planet is lying inside. So that already gives us like a hint that maybe we should explore it further. And then we go look for the other things.
Yeah, and Habitable is also very nice for press releases as well, isn't it? I mean, that seems to be one of those.
Yeah.
They love throwing out, new Earth.
Yeah.
Kind
So
of thing.
now the second question of like, should we let AI like guide the telescope or not? That's a completely different story. What is the goal that we want to achieve with that? So in general, I would say that no, you don't want, because AI could bias in a way the results. And what we want to know for now is that we barely know anything about the exoplanets and life and anything. So we want to go exploring in a more or less random way for a certain time until we find this unbiased population. And then if you want to really go for very specific things, then we can let the AI kind of guide the telescope for a while, but not in the beginning. I mean, we already have biased information because our telescopes are not precise enough.
Right.
So to add more on top of it is really not ideal, I would say.
Right. I mean, I remember back when I was a little kid getting excited about space. All the planets were rocky. There was no water. There was no debate about water being. They were all just like rocky husks or giant gases planets. That was it. So we would be looking in a different. If we had AI at that point, we'd have AI looking in the wrong place for everything. Anyways, yeah, that's pretty neat. I guess the other thing is also the definition of AI, because the reality is we do have we have we have telescopes that will do patterns across the sky to get. I mean, is that AI? I mean, is that I feel like
it depends a bit. So there's like automation. So that's one of the things. So it's basically machine doing the tasks, but it doesn't mean that automation is AI. Automation can also be done by AI. So there's like a really like thin line separating both of them.
Yeah.
And there's also like optimization. And optimization, there's a second point that you can do, but it doesn't necessarily need to be AI doing it, but it can also be AI. And these two, automation and optimization, these are things we use. So automation is basically you give the tasks, I mean, they are kind of given in an automatic way. So you don't need to be in kind of sending commands to your spacecraft to actually do the tasks.
Right.
They are automated. But then optimization, it's different. It's a little bit what I was doing in Airbus. So basically you have a catalog of pictures that you want to take of the Earth, and you have a lot of criteria to take these pictures into account. And you can find an optimized way using AI at the time, but you don't need to, but you can find an optimized way to actually take these pictures in such a way that you minimize resources, that you have the most valuable content there, that is higher priorities. So that's a bit the things that AI can do, and it's actually worth doing at this point.
It's fascinating that the first thing you said was bias, which I thought it's such an interesting point, because we sort of forget how many different potential biases there are in so many things that have been established over the years. That's neat, though. I like that, because I feel like that I should apply that to any AI models I have. What do you do? Like, how do you look for the bias first, and then you can take that out of the equation? That's noise that you don't want, basically. Right?
Exactly.
That's great. Okay, more questions. Now, how are you doing? Are you like okay?
I'm fine.
Okay, great. Okay, all right. Okay, so that was Pink Goggles. Good questions. Birdbane says space telescopes see far. I guess telescopes see far and back into space and time. How far out and back have we seen?
So I think the furthest we saw was the cosmic microwave background. So it's like something which is very far and very in the past. So it's what we think it's the residual after the Big Bang. Yeah. So that's how far we saw. But typically for exoplanets, it's actually way closer than this. So it's really things that are in the vicinities, because our telescopes are not really good to actually look at very, very far away stars that have planets passing by. I mean, we cannot do this.
Right.
So it depends a little bit of the field that you're talking about.
But it is interesting we can go that far back with the microwaves.
Yeah.
What are there technologies on the horizon that you're excited about that might increase this stuff? I mean, that might allow us to do more? I mean, obviously, Plato has, that multiple cameras that can collect together and all that stuff. But are there any technologies you sort of see on the horizon that might help us with that kind of stuff?
So there's a few missions that I'm very, very looking forward in the future. So Plato is one of them, because it's really like going for the tiniest planets. So things that are like the Earth. And this is amazing, because I mean, it's quite difficult to see things like the Earth.
They're sort of pitching it like the Earth Hunter, aren't they? Like
that's
one of their sort of, yeah.
I mean, it's also on the name, kind of like.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
But then there's Ariel. So I was actually in a conference for Ariel last week. So this is another mission by ESA. And this one is basically going to look at some known planets that we already saw before. And it's going to try to characterize their atmospheres. So really looking for the elements that are composing that atmosphere in that exoplanet. And this would be the mission that is really going to look, I would say, in a very, very naive way, looking for life,
Right.
It's really like looking for, analyzing the atmospheric characteristics. And this is the one I'm saying looking for life, because it can go see the weird things going on in the atmosphere.
And how is it doing that? What is it using to figure out what an atmosphere is made out of?
So it's basically it's doing a transit as well, like we said. It's like really going around the star, but at some point the light is going to traverse the atmosphere. of the planet. So the planet is going like passing by and it's going to traverse, and you're going to try to analyze the light that is really traversing the atmosphere that is reaching us, and from there get like a signature of the things that are absorbed and emitted, and really trying to see what are the molecules that could be doing those kind of signals there.
So the different colors of the light, or the different wavelengths of light, is what's going to dictate what they see? Wow.
Exactly.
God, it feels all very, very sort of like prone to error. Like it feels like there's so much stuff going on.
That's why they chose carefully the stars. They chose carefully the planets. It's planets they already saw. So it's things that we know that we have the possibility to do it. And it's a very precise instrument looking at this.
So they can zoom. They're very specific to what they're doing.
It's going to stay a bit of time. It's going to do a lot of measurements. It's not just like you look, you see, and that's it.
Yeah, there's life.
These are things.
Yeah.
Of course, these are things that are going to take their time. There's going to be a lot of studies. There's going to be a lot of modeling, and there's going to be trying to make sense out of the data as well.
Are you excited about it because you think we're going to find life? Do you think, is that something you feel like in your, I know that's not a very scientific question, is it? Because it's kind of like,
it's more a philosophical question.
Yeah.
But I think at some point it's not going to be clear. I think that is really my personal opinion, and it's a personal opinion of a very young scientist in the field. But I think what we're going to see is we're going to see data. At some point, this data is not going to make sense. And we are not going to be able to explain it with our models. And this is going to be the tipping point, because this is going to be like, what did we not understand? What did we not see yet that could justify all of this? And you start putting all of this together, and at some point, the answer is going to be, if you eliminated all the biases, all the potential noise, all the other kind of like explanations for this, at some point, people are going to say, what if it is life?
Yeah.
And you don't want to declare it at this point because you don't know. You will not be able to know.
But it's the thing I love and most frustrating about science and talking to scientists is that until there's there's never 100%, but
but this moment is going to be awesome. You're going to look and you're going to see, well, maybe there, that point in the sky, maybe there's where it is. And being very, very rational about it. Why would Earth be special?
That's my feeling. Yeah.
So I think at some point we're going to find something like this, and we will not be able to know what is going on. And it's going to be very motivating for the future to kind of like launch new missions, trying to understand more, trying to see if we are alone or not. And it's going to be amazing. And this mission has the potential to do this. In a certain way, Plato has also the potential to look for all the planets that could be like us and that could be interesting to study too. And I think these two missions are really like motivating me to be in this field and to actually feel it and go for it.
So is there going to be an AI that's going to help detect potential life?
I think at some point there's going to be a good role played by AI at this, because data analysis is very complicated, and if like AI can do it and accelerate, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
The danger is that with the current AI that we have, it could be something which is a false positive, and this we need to.
It's going to tell us what we want to hear, isn't it? It's like,
exactly.
What a wonderful idea.
It's
of
biased.
course.
It's like even a fallacy. I think it's like the confirmation fallacy or something like that. There's a name for this fallacy. It's really like you see what you want to see. And this is like the problem with AI, and even with the data that you get from the telescopes. It can be really completely taking AI out of the scope. You're going to look, and you need to be careful with this bias, because you're going to look and you want to see life. You really want it at some points, and people are like doing careers all around it. So you need to be really judging the data and being really sure that you excluded all the options before you actually declare something like this.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing because I think we sort of forget that we're just these sort of like brains in darkness, and that we're just making sense of the signals we get. The same way with the AI, it's just trying to make sense of the signals, and that sometimes we fill in blanks that aren't there because that's the way the brain works. The idea that I love the fact that our vision is part of it's just being made up because we're not actually looking there. It's just sort of taking what's what it knows about around us. It's fascinating. I just so exciting. I feel like there's a wonderful book actually if you want a good read from years ago it's Timothy Ferris' book called Coming of Age Under the Milky Way, and it's our changing view of the skies. So basically how it was us and then everything was around us. And then it slowly we became further and further away from the center of this whole thing. And it's just funny how when you talk about bias, about how, when you want to believe that you are the center of the solar system, that's how you see the solar system. And until that changes, your model of it doesn't change. So
Yeah.
it's a really neat. I haven't read it for years, but it's an amazing book. Okay, more questions. What have we got? Okay, not sure if the question was already asked, but what is the smallest size of cosmic object that can be detected by gravity waves? I guess you're going to find out.
Yeah, I don't know that yet, Mo, but maybe we'll know very soon.
Yeah. Was there anything, did you see any anomalies? So you saw anomalies basically in the modeling that you'd done that would indicate that you would see something if it was big enough. That's right. Okay. So you just have to now see
in the
it.
simulations that we got, I mean, I wouldn't be able to see what is the smallest thing. I mean, it really depends on several factors. So
right, like how close it is, I'm sure is part of it.
How close it is, how it passes by, because this is something 3D in space, and depending on the way it passes by, it can also be something that we pick up better than another way, and how close it passes. So there's at least these 3 factors.
I can't wait for Lisa to get up there. When do they launch?
I think it's 35, isn't it? Well, for now.
So far away.
For now.
You got to be so patient to be in space. I don't have the patience for space.
Yeah, that's the problem of this field,
Yeah. Do you ever find do you feel that sometimes? Where you're just like, oh, come on, that's too far away.
I mean, you get very amused before that and after that. So I mean,
right. When also you've got enough to do anyway, so it's
you're entertained during.
You're keeping yourself busy. If it wasn't for that program that you went to at CERN, what do you think your life would be like? Do you think you'd still be doing this?
Oh, I thought about that for quite a while, and I think I was always very curious, so I think I would be somewhere. But I think that problem, that kind of like that program, the first one in high school when I went, I think that was the moment it launched me, because I really started looking for what can I do apart from just studying. I want to do this and I want to try that, and I really want to explore science. And I think the second tipping point was the internship with Oliver. So that was the moment I said okay, science is way more fun than I thought that it was.
Right. Really? I mean, that's great.
Yeah, those 2 points were when it changed kind of the trajectory that I had in mind at some point. Yeah.
What, how, as a job, how does it progress? What do you do now? Once you've set, what is your goal with this? Do you want to be you want to be an Oliver? You want to be, where do you see yourself going?
I don't know, actually. So there's quite a few ways to progress. I mean, you can kind of so you start with a PhD, you can then do a postdoc. So that's something very small for a couple of years and everything.
Right. Like a specific project of some sort?
Yeah, I mean, you can define it or someone can define it for you, but you work on a certain project that you're doing research on and you are the expert on it. Then you can either be a professor or you can be a full researcher or you can be someone like Oliver, so in charge of the missions. I mean, it depends a little bit, but yeah.
Do you have is there anything, a part of you that goes do you see something? I mean, is there something that appeals to you more than others? I mean, do you like the idea of teaching or you want to be more in the field?
I mean, I do like teaching. I mean, I actually don't know. I just want to see where it goes, So
you're just going to follow your curiosity then.
Yeah, exactly. I want to see how it goes.
That's great. Yeah, perfect. Again, it's that bias. You got rid of the bias. Perfect. Okay. This is, so that last question was Nixie Vids. Thank you, Nixie Vids. Sigma Crier says, when using AI to predict where we should look for planets that could support life, are there patterns the AI has found that humans would never have thought of to look for? Any surprises there?
Well, I would say yes, but that is a little bit confidential for now.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, I mean, we got
wait for the journal.
Yeah. We got a result at some point, which we saw a correlation that was unexpected. That in a certain way could make sense, but it's unexpected. But we need to really look into this and see if it is not just a feature of the burn model per se, a feature of the AI, or if it is really a correlation that is there that we did not see before. But for now, we did not do enough tests to actually be able to say something. And then if we did, this is actually a good result to publish.
Yeah, no kidding. That's great. Okay, so we'll put a pin in that one, as they would say in Hollywood. Okay. Okay, this is Sigma Crow's got another one. Detecting the mass of a small asteroid using gravitational waves sounds like trying to hear a pin drop during a rock concert. That sounds pretty good. How do you filter out the noise of massive objects like Jupiter or the sun, and to focus, for example, on a tiny passing asteroid? Yeah, how do you pull the noise out?
That is already going to be done. So, I mean, the thing is, Lisa is, of course, going to see the moon and going to see Jupiter, and is going to see the bodies in the solar system. So that's already something that they needed to think about when they wanted to detect the other gravitational waves, the real objectives of the mission.
Right.
And, I mean, they already, sorted out a way to actually filter out this noise. So, but yeah, the question is quite correct in the sense that it puts it like this is a very complicated scenario, and we need to actually find a way to figure it out how we are going to extract these properties. And for the moment, this is something we are currently in research. We know it's possible because the signal to noise ratio we get, so really the quantity that assesses if it is possible or not, it's telling us that it is possible. It's just that we didn't try yet to extract something and try to really extrapolate the parameters from this signal. But this is something we have in working in progress. I have a few ideas on it, and we're going to work on it.
Is this something that will the data be coming down? Will your data be taken out of the data? So they I'm assuming will extract the data from the satellite somehow, this system of satellites. Do you automatically get that, or does it get passed to you, or is there something else? I mean, are you all working off the same data? How does that get to you?
So I don't know how it's going to be done for Lisa, but I can tell you how it works for the missions that I am currently in.
Yeah.
And it's basically you take the data, it is processed a little bit, so it's really not just the raw data that you get. So they take down a little bit of the noise and everything, and basically they give it to a consortium, so a group of people that are part of this mission in a certain way officially, and then you get to use it. And then depending on who is actually driving the mission, it can become publicly available after a period of time, or even immediately, depending on what are the conditions. So for one of the missions that I work for, I mean, there's a few period of time, I think it's 1 year, in which the data is private, so it's just for the scientists of the mission. And then after a year, they are published for everyone to actually use and test and try to understand. And if they were evaluated or not, that does not matter. It's really after 1 year this data was taken, it gets public.
Why is it private? It's private because that's protecting the scientists, or
no? It's just to allow the people who are really running the mission to do some science with it. It's like a bit of exclusivity in the beginning, a kickstarting in the beginning for us.
You've done the work.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like a reward in a sense.
Right. But it depends. So are you in that first year on LISA then?
I don't know. Honestly, I'm not part of this consortium for the moment, so I don't know. But
that would be nice, though, wouldn't it? Like if you get to be in the.
Yeah. That would be cool. But I mean, again, it's only in 35. I don't even know where I am in 35.
I know. I don't even. Yeah, it's true. I don't know what I'm having for lunch. So.
But Oliver is explaining how is the data going to be public.
Oh, great. Okay, so LISA data will be public after a quality assurance period. We need to be sure that the data is fine. This period will be initially 1 year, and after that, it will reduce significantly. Hopefully. Thank you, Oliver. Oliver, we're going to have to get you and Sara together to talk about the paper maybe when it comes out, because I'm going to have a million questions because I'm going to attempt to read it, and then that'll be a disaster. And then you can, we can maybe dive into it a bit more. It would also just be fun because I think for a lot of us, certainly for me, I don't know what it's like to get a paper published or anything. I mean, I think there's a whole side to this, to science that I think a lot of people don't even know exists, Good for you for checking the chat, though. I usually tell most of my guests to ignore the chat because we're having a discussion. I'm terrible. I can't do both. Like, I'm not good at both. So
No, I mean, I just saw it because it started with Lisa, and then it kind of caught my attention,
right.
and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh,
No,
okay.
you're not in trouble. That's good. That's good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Let me just check to make sure there are not more questions.
Yeah, Oliver just answered to you. This is very funny.
Yeah, we're going back and forth. Yeah, Oliver's going to be a streamer in no time at all. He's going to be like a YouTube influencer.
Oh, please! I want to see that.
I do think like it's something that I'd love to bug ESA about, because I think ESA should have a channel where they just talk about, like, every week you could have different people coming in and talking about stuff. So, I mean, I think all of these institutions should have that, because what I love about these chats is we're people talking. And I think sometimes the science becomes all about the science. And I think you can lose a lot of people in that side of stuff. So, okay. They've moved on to Project Hail Mary now. That's what the chat's now talking about. Okay. I have to ask these questions. First off, what are you doing other than this? How do you get out of, when you're doing all the science and stuff? I know the answer, but I know everyone else doesn't. But what do you do to relax, so to speak?
Relax. I mean, that's not exactly the word I would use for this.
No, me neither. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a funny hobby by itself. But I mean, what the audience doesn't know is that I'm a pilot as well, a private pilot. So, and I fly in my free time, kind of, in a way.
Do you have a plane? Is there like a plane that you can access on a regular basis? Frozen.
Yeah.
And back. There you go.
I still don't see you.
Okay, oh, really?
Now I see.
There you go. Okay.
No, I mean, I don't own a plane, but I joined the club that has planes. So I kind of rent it. And because I'm a member, I can rent it.
Right. And so and what are you doing in the plane? Like, where do you fly places, or you just fly around? What are you doing?
Well, that depends a bit. So depends a little bit what you want to do. So because I already have the license, so what I do is basically what I want. That's the right answer.
Good reason to have a license.
Go for a rides and just go around being based in Switzerland, go around the mountains or the lakes. You can. If you really want to do a trip, you can as well. So, I mean, I did a few of them in which I went to France or to Germany from Switzerland, and then I stayed for a day and then came back. I still did not do, because I'm still a quite young pilot, so I don't have that much experience. I still didn't do like a weekend away or a week away. And I mean, I'm going progressively in that direction, but I want to do it slowly, because it's still like, let's say it's not the most safe hobby to pick.
No, I know. It's terrifying to me, to be honest. But I will admit, though, that I have been, I don't know why, YouTube, I guess, has decided that I should buy a plane or something. But I keep getting these YouTube channels about these micro planes, so that you don't require as much of a pilot's license, because I guess some of it's autonomous. And I mean, is that exciting to you at all? The idea of having your own little...
I would say that if I want one, I would want one which has a motor and is really like the one that I fly, because I mean, it's really cool. I mean, I really like the one that I'm flying, and I really like the feeling of flying myself. I mean, I even had the discussion today with a friend, and he was telling me, oh yeah, I mean, but if you want to start doing trips, he's also a pilot. So if you want to start doing trips, I mean, you can use the autopilot. And I looked at him and I was like, but what is the point then to go? I mean, I want to pilot my plane, you know?
I love that the AI expert is like, autopilot? What?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I guess that makes sense too. It's not like you're not doing it. You're doing it for fun, not for necessarily the practicality of getting from A to B. So I'm sure there are more practical ways of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely less stressful, I would say, as well, and less dependent on the weather.
And how did you get into this? How did that come about?
So that was actually quite a lot of luck, because when I went for France for this master's, I kind of integrated this army-related school. So it was aerospace, but more in the direction of the army, and by the military of defense or army, or whatever they call themselves in France. So there's a French name for this, of course.
Was that the Airbus connection? Is that the...
So they are connected to Airbus, but it was not the connection per se to Airbus.
Right.
It's just that they do partnerships, and most of the students that are there end up working for Airbus. But this is also because it is Toulouse, and basically in Toulouse, it's kind of like Airbus everywhere.
Right.
So,
I love Toulouse. I did a convention out there. It was wonderful.
It's quite nice. But basically, I integrated this school, and because they are related to the army, they want people to kind of go to the army. And what they did to kind of motivate them to do it was to actually, they bought an hangar, they bought a few planes, and they hired a few instructors, and they said, look, we give the scholarship for like 30 people in the school per year. You get the scholarship, you can get a pilot's license, or at least you will have an experience in flying. And I went for this scholarship, and I actually by this got inside the scholarship. And so then it started the training to become a pilot. In the beginning I didn't even realize. I thought it was quite cool, and then I did the tests and I entered, and I was like, oh, cool. And I remember doing the first flight, and I was like, shit, I don't know if I can do this. Then, as you go, you get passionate and more passionate, and at some point you cannot talk about anything else. My boyfriend at some point, he got so annoyed by me.
Shut up about the planes.
It felt like there was a competition, with the plane.
You gotta choose me or the planes.
And it was not gonna like this.
It's not gonna win. None of us are gonna win that.
But at some point you got so passionate because you study very hard. To pass this exam, first of all, you get a theoretical exam, a little bit like the car, but in which you need to study the meteorology, you need to be able to predict the weather, you need to be able to know the legislations, because there's rules in the sky.
I'm sure.
You kind of need to know how the plane is going to behave in different situations, like really the mechanics inside the plane, because you're responsible for the plane as well. And you needed to study all of this, and it was a nightmare. I remember, in the exam, you needed to have like more than 75% correct to pass the exam.
Right.
Which was quite hard per se, and it was only multiple choice, but with very sneaky choices, as the solution. And the questions were stuff like, they put a photo of a cloud, but with no reference whatsoever. Like this, they took a photo to the sky, and they said, like, what is this type of cloud? And you're like, first of all, there's more than 11 types of clouds.
I was going to say,
all on altitudes, and you don't have any visual reference of the altitude. Today, I actually could be able to answer this question. At the time, I was for sure not able to answer this question. It's something that you also learn by experience. Because it's usually the most annoying clouds that you get in the sky.
What was it?
It was a cumulus cloud, so it's basically a cloud that's it's isolated, and it kind of like announces good weather, but it's also the one that is present all the time, so it's really in your trajectory all the time. It's not the worst one. There's like the lower ones, which are stratus, and these ones are the messy ones because it means you cannot take off and go at some point to the sky. But they put it like this nasty photo. They took it from above. You couldn't see any reference to altitude, so you couldn't even judge in which category it belonged to. And that was one of the questions of the exam. And at some point I'm doing the exam, and I'm like, I will not pass. And then I passed. And then it started the fun. So now you get to the point you're piloting the plane. You did all the theoretical things.
You've done the work now, so you kind of,
and you realize you don't understand anything. That you did the theoretical part, and it's like nothing like that.
Where's the book?
And it's worse than that. In the theoretical part, you started like really planning these things. You did a lot of calculations and things, and then you arrive to the sky, and the way you're judging the distance, like to kind of go down in the good direction, in the good plane of descent to land, and the way my teacher told me, like my instructor told me at the time, is like, you look into the horizon, you kind of put two fingers like this, and if you think that the distance between the horizon and the two fingers, and you have the runway there, this is actually the good plane. And I was looking at him, and I'm like, but your fingers are bigger than mine.
Exactly.
But it did work.
It did work.
It did work. And it's
wait a second. Sorry, when you're coming in for a landing, you're doing this?
No, not anymore. At some point, this was in the beginning when I kind of like needed a certain way to find like how is kind of the runway looking when you look
like a
into
reference for
exactly to see more or less the plane. And this was the way he kind of taught me. And the funny thing was, then I was learning in the south of France, and it was still quite away from the Pyrenees, so you didn't have any mountains. So it worked quite well with the horizon. Then I came to Switzerland, and the runways were all very different. So I kind of like, at some point, I was very confused. So you start putting the two fingers, but you realize you don't know where the horizon is anymore because it's all mountains.
Because it's a mountain in the way, right? Oh my God!
So I mean, that was piloting, you know, and that was also another one who marked me at some point, because there's like the minimum altitude that you need to have when you are in this class, which is uncontrolled. So you have controlled classes, and in there you have very strict rules about how you fly. Right. But when you are in a non-controlled airspace, then the only rule you have is that you need to be at least 500 feet from the ground.
Right.
And my question to my instructor at some point was, I mean, but how do I judge that I'm like 500 feet from the ground if I don't have the reference? I mean, you have an altimeter, but if you don't know where the ground is, I mean, you cannot know that you're 500 feet above or not. And he told me, like, very, very stupidly, something like, you know, when you start looking into the windows, if you see the people inside, you are too close. And I'm like, okay.
Really?
Yes.
Thanks for all your help. Because 500 is what's the, that's just, they've judged that a safe distance.
I mean, it's basically the way you do it is they judge. They say it's like a safe distance, but I mean, in the end, it's just a reference. Yeah. And the idea is like, you usually study where you want to go, and you know more or less what are the distance. I mean, the altitude of the places that are around you, so you can judge more or less what is the minimum altitude you need to do. So if everything is at, in theory, the zero is 1,500 feet, then you know that you need to be at least at 2,000. That's a bit the way we do it. I mean, but there's no really strict rule about it. But I mean, this was the way I learned, you know, and it came from a completely different thing. On top of it, I'm an engineer, you know, I was really asking the question, I mean, I need to know. I mean,
I don't work with fingers. I work with,
exactly. And I mean, the thing is, in the sky, you work with the fingers, and that's it, because you will not have time to think about anything. You need to act. And it happened several times that it was that. I mean, at some point you have like no time to think, and you need to react. And you
Any close calls? If you had, this sounds the voice of experience. It sounds like.
And like again, I'm a very young pilot, but there were two that for me were not close calls, but it was like not necessarily usual situation, and honestly, sometimes frightening.
Yeah.
There was one which was we had a failure. We really had a failure. So that I was with my instructor, and I was learning how to cross borders. And we had a failure in this flight. And the failure was that we crossed the border to go to France at that time. So it was already in Switzerland. And we crossed the border to go to France. And when we arrived in France, we were doing the circuit. So really the thing you need to do before you land.
Right.
And when we were in the final approach to land, the flaps, which are supposed to go down and kind of like give you a bit of like lift for lower speeds, because you want to decrease your speed and still be in the air. Yeah. So you kind of put the flaps down. This is what the commercial planes do as well. And we do it as well. And when we put the flaps down, they went down, and we have two of them. So you start with no flaps, then you have flaps 1, and then flaps 2. And for landing, we need flaps 2.
Right.
And we put them, and it worked. We saw that there was a little bit of a failure, but I mean, they went down. So we landed, everything went fine. And when we kind of like, we went to France, we wanted to come back and then like leave the plane at its place and go away, you know, it was just a training flight. When we want to kind of like go back and start aligning to the runway to kind of take off, this was the moment that the flaps would not change from the configuration of landing to takeoff, which is like position number 1 before you have just no flaps.
You are
so
not
they were
off.
not changing. So it meant that you could take off, but you had too much drag to kind of climb. So you take off, and that was a very, very hot day. So hot conditions are even worse to kind of go up.
Right.
So at some point we took off. The town was in here. You must imagine like something like this. And we were kind of like passing just above the town like this, and we couldn't go up. I mean, we couldn't go up for a while. And the only good thing that we had was that, I mean, the path that we wanted to take was not that long. And it was like via a lake. So we didn't need to reach a very good big altitude. But we didn't even reach the minimum altitude to join the circuits of the place we wanted to land in. We just informed the tower at that point that we couldn't reach the minimums and that we just wanted to go straight in for the landing. And that was one thing. And the second thing was that you couldn't also have a lot of speed, because I mean, you had too much drag, and at some point, if you allowed your plane to have too much speed, that would mean that the flaps could detach. And that was the second issue.
You're putting everybody offline, just so you know. Yeah.
But I mean, in the end, we managed to get back. We landed the plane and we realized that what happened was just the motor that was supposed to change this was actually just overheated because it was a very hot day. So in the end, I mean, no major issue for the plane. We managed to come back easily. And I mean, we took this decision really taking into account that we knew it could be a potential dangerous flight. And we had always the plan to come back if it did not we couldn't like
climb. So you could have turned around.
Yeah.
But you thought you were going to be able to climb more.
That was a little bit the option that we had. I mean, so this was one. The second one was actually no failure. It was just related to weather. Right. And this was actually a flight I did with a friend pilot. And we are both pilots, and he's way more experienced than I am. And that day I was actually the pilot in command, and he was my co-pilot.
Right.
And the idea was he wanted to show to me the place in which he learned how to fly. And we went to Germany, so from Switzerland to Germany.
Right.
And I, like in the morning, as I always do, I checked the weather, and I didn't find it very good. Honestly, I looked at it and I was like, seems too unstable. And I kind of text him and say like, yeah, I don't think I like
Maybe not
this.
Today.
Yeah, but I mean, in the end, he was like, it is flyable for me. And I mean, it is flyable for him. It's just that me, because I have way less experience and I tend to be a little bit more like on the frightening side regarding the weather.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you, definitely.
I was like, yeah, I don't know. But at the same time, he's way more experienced. So I thought, okay, I'm going to learn with this person. I mean, he's going to show me to put myself a little bit outside my comfort zone. And I did not see something which is really saying like, okay, it's going to be like cloudy in my direction. It's going to be raining. There's going to be a storm. I just saw that the weather was a little bit unstable. And that maybe there could be a little bit of rain, but not to the point that we couldn't do anything. So that being said, he told me, I mean, I would fly, but if you don't feel like it, you don't have to. And at that point, I said, okay, so this is a good time to learn. So let's go. So we took the plane, we flew to Germany, and it was perfect. I mean, it kind of rained slightly during the flight, but nothing like problematic. It was a very nice flight. We went over the Black Forest and everything, and we landed in Germany.
Right.
And then we spent a very nice day in this town. He kind of like showed me.
I kind of want this story to end here, but I know where it's going. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So then we did again a second check, of course, before taking off, and we checked everything, and the information was telling us that it was possible to come back, but that there was some kind of storm that was going to catch up at some point, but way later in the evening, actually, even like the day after.
Right.
We saw it was just coming, So we took off. We kind of like went again in the Black Forest. We kind of flew above it. And as soon as we reached Switzerland, then things start to get nasty, because in front of me, when I start looking at the direction and I see nothing, because there's clouds in front of it. So in the beginning, very harmless clouds. Yeah. And then when you start looking at the horizon and you only see black and we are in the middle of the day, then you start thinking, maybe this was not a good decision.
That's the unstable part.
Yeah. And the problem was that, I mean, the weather was really coming from the north of Switzerland, from the French side. So it didn't reach Germany yet, but it was coming also to that. And we couldn't go south too. We couldn't go really to the southern part, to the Alps, because there was some kind of like strong wind there coming from the south of France. So we were a little bit blocked in the middle, And at some point we started going in this trajectory to come back to the place that I had my plane in. And I start seeing the thing and I'm like, no, I don't think we are going to do this. And I kind of look around and there's still like a little bit of like light.
A patch of blue.
Yeah, a patch of light. Yeah. And I mean, at some point I'm like, okay, so let's counter the kind of storm and try to reach it from the other side. So we go in the south, and we are kind of like going in the south. We contact the tower that is kind of allowing us to pass through their space, which was burned at the time.
Right.
And I'm talking to the tower, and they're saying like, "Oh yeah, you can pass our airport, no problem. I mean, in the end, we'll kind of like deliver you to the right frequency so you can continue your flight." At some point, we are crossing their space, and there's like the tower contacting us again and saying like, "Well, we got some updates on the weather. Do you want to know them?" On the place that we were supposed to land.
Yeah.
And we said like, yeah, I mean, if you have any information, please tell us. We were seeing that it was getting worse and worse, and on top of it, because we went a little bit south, we were feeling the weather, we were feeling more turbulence and more gusts and everything. And the plane was shaking way more, and he's like, oh, yeah, but okay, the current weather automatically taken by the instruments in the field, it's this. And then I kind of looked at my friend and said, okay, that's still doable, so let's continue. We are almost leaving the area of this airport, and the tower contacted us again, because I mean, they heard the thing and it felt like not compatible with what we were seeing in the sky. Even us, we were kind of doubting a little bit,
Oh, I guess it's not so bad. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, but we were clearly in the sky. We clearly saw what happened, And this was the point in which the tower says, oh yeah, I mean, we did not trust the instruments. We called the people in place, and they told us there's no way you're going to land there. And that was the panic moment. I mean, that was the moment that in my mind, I'm like, okay, so we need a solution. And we cannot continue further because we don't know if there's going to be actually good weather further. We only know that in the place we are currently, there's good weather. So that's the moment the tower was extremely helpful. And they said, I mean, do you want to kind of land on our place? And I'm like, yes.
Yes, please God,
Problem is, I did not know how to land in their place. I mean, I didn't even study their circuit or anything. I didn't even know the direction. Well, I could guess, but I didn't even know in theory the direction of the runway. So this is the moment that my friend who is experienced, he already knew the place. So he kind of like takes the maps that show you all the circuits and everything, and he talks to the tower. He says, okay, I'm going to guide her. And he kind of gives me the things, and I'm looking in the middle of in the middle of the storm. I'm looking at it, and I'm trying to understand what path do I need to think. My friend is guiding me like, say, now go left, now go right, and everything. And the plane is shaking like crazy because we were going souther and souther and souther. And at some point we land the plane. So this was like, we land. Honestly, in my point of view, I was a bit shocked,
Yeah.
We land. And this was kind of like at the end of the day, because we spent the full day in Germany. And the problem is with our license, with the simplest one, you cannot land at night.
Right.
So you couldn't take off after a certain hour. And this certain hour at this time was 5:00. And we just landed at 4. And then, I mean, you looked into the sky, you knew, I mean,
you were not flying
you couldn't go. But I mean, we still went to see the weather maps and to see where the storm was, to see if we could even go around or something. And at some point I had to say like, no, we're not going to take off. And I called the people in the club. I said like, look, the plane is not going to come back home. So how do I do now? And it stayed like grounded for 3 days in Bern before it could even go home.
Because the weather was that bad.
Yeah, I mean, the storm came and it stayed for 3 days in Switzerland. And I tried, I even took days off to actually go fly back the plane, and I couldn't, because in the end, I mean, there was no possibility to fly whatsoever during the full day. And at that time, I still didn't have the night training. So this kind of like was the moment in which I was like, I think I need to do the night training now.
Really? Because my thought would be, I think I need to never do this again.
Well, yeah. This was the moment.
I don't just play a coward on television. I'm full coward.
Yeah, no, this was the moment that I actually did this. But I mean, the funniest thing was that 3 days later, I came back to kind of recover the plane, to bring it back home. So the club was actually quite cool with it, because apparently this is way more common than I thought it was.
Right.
And I kind of like arrived there, and it was a working day. I arrived there and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be there at really like the first hour, first minute in which the airport opens. And then I'm going to take off immediately, drop it, and go back to work,
Right.
And I had meetings that day, And I arrived there. And of course, my plane was completely frozen because it was winter in Switzerland.
Oh
So
God.
I needed to defrost my plane before I actually could take off, and it took
What
more than 2 hours to
what do they
defrost.
do? Is it the liquid stuff again, or do you like is it a
Um,
de-icing thing or what?
so there's a liquid which is de-icing, but
Yeah.
for us, I mean, we don't get that luxury. I mean, for us, is the sun, and
Oh,
I
really?
mean,
You're just waiting for the
yeah,
sun to heat it up.
I was
Wow.
very lucky that there was that was a sunny day,
You're like sitting there breathing on it. Trying to get it to yeah.
Yeah, but it was 0 degrees outside, so
Yeah.
you good
Yeah.
luck with that.
Oh,
But yeah, I mean, I arrived there, and I mean, I thought the universe was just laughing at me, and I was
yeah.
telling me, no, you're not gonna go. I mean, you're gonna do your meetings for sure, but you're gonna stress a little bit about it. And I just came back right in time to actually do my first meeting,
Oh
which
my
was at
God.
1 o'clock in the afternoon.
I I can't get my head around that. That seems though I guess once you've had a few of those experiences, you're just then it makes the easier stuff more fun, I guess,
Oh
right? Is
yeah,
that yeah, like once you get
I
used
mean,
to
at
that.
some point, you just, I mean, it kind of everything becomes relative to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
I
I love
mean,
the fact that we're still completely the weather is still just a big another reason why
yeah,
we need all these satellites is because
yeah,
we need the more accurate the weather forecast, the better, frankly.
yeah. I mean,
You know.
and like the lesson learned. I mean, I always knew this, but I mean, the thing is, I don't go into the sky if I'm not like 100% sure that the weather is
Mm,
good. And that day, I doubted myself, which was the
mm,
only thing I regretted. I think in the end, me and my friend, we acted like perfectly. We really worked as a team, and it was like really good.
yeah. Yeah.
And then on top of it, it gave us like an experience that we felt together that was really
Mm.
like bonding.
But in the
But
future, you'll trust your gut and say like, nah, that doesn't look
yeah,
great.
I think yeah, I'm I trust more my weather interpretation now.
Yeah. It's funny because there's I rode a motorcycle for years and years and years, and the first motorcycle lesson I ever took, the guy said, if you get up in the morning and you go to your bike and you're just not feeling it, don't get on the bike.
Yeah,
And
that's another thing. I
that was
mean,
an absolutely brilliant thing because if you're feeling off or you just have a bad feeling or whatever, just don't do it.
but
And
this I
I
realized quite
yeah.
later. I mean, the weather I always knew because even in my training flights before I was really a pilot with a license and could do
Mhm.
whatever. I mean, I had a few moments in which I went alone for the first time for a long flight, and the weather was not good that day. And I remember being in the sky and regretting being there and thinking
Mhm.
like I'm going to abort this flight because I cannot. And this I learned quite quickly that
Mhm.
you respect the weather as a pilot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the lesson that I didn't know at the time was like human factors are quite important. So how the pilot is
Mm.
and how it is like mentally, this is extremely important because you're going to be in a stressful situation. You
Mm.
don't want to be weak to handle the situation.
Mm.
And this I only learned quite later because when I was in my training, I was like always looking forward to my flights. I was always confident. And I mean, it was kind of like almost the prime objective compared to the degree. I mean,
Right, right.
so that was like very, very different. And now that
Mm.
I'm doing the PhD and there's moments in which it is extremely stressful, that I'm overloaded with tasks and everything, there was one moment in which I had planned the flight. I went for it and I was not feeling it. And I remember doing mistakes. And in the end, you don't handle it well.
Yeah.
In the end, you feel very like emotional after the flight, and it can even be dangerous because if you're not
Mhm.
feeling fine, you might even miss the landing.
Right.
So this
Yeah.
was this was the second lesson I learned, and this is something that now I respect way more. So I don't go
Mm.
flying when I feel that I'm tired or I feel that I'm not feeling fine.
Mm. Because it's also I mean, it's also not you're not flying because you have to fly somewhere. You're flying this is out of an enjoyment factor.
Yeah,
Like, so,
exactly.
right. Wow. What I mean, is there any way to bridge the two? Is there could you be, could you have can the flying be part of your work as well? Could you be, you know,
Well, let's say that's because now University of Bern is kind of like starting to decrease CO2 emissions. I don't think there's going to be, but I mean,
oh,
at
true.
some point I could, I mean, at some point there was a talk that I needed to give in a school that I actually thought quite strongly if I could bring the plane and land in the airport that was close by and actually give the talk, but I mean, do it out of my own budget, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
do it as something that could even complement work in a way.
Yeah.
And in the end, I did not do it because, I mean, in general, it adds stress to it. I mean,
Mm.
there's people who can handle that, but I prefer to keep it less stressful in
Yeah.
that sense. but it also, like, if things fail for some reason, if I have a problem in the sky and everything, I mean, you can say the same with a train or with a car and everything, but
Yeah.
It's less reliable, I would say, than taking the train, and the responsibility is not on me,
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about the train is you can get work done because it's someone else's problem getting there.
Exactly. So I try to avoid it for now. Maybe if at some point I'm more experienced and I really feel confident about this, why not? It can be a possibility. Yeah.
Have you done any gliding?
No, not yet. But I also thought that could be quite cool. It's different.
Really neat. I mean, I only know it from one little trip. There was a documentary my friend was doing on gliding, and they took me up. Actually, yeah, it was a young woman who was, I think she was still in high school.
Wow.
And she had all the whatever you needed to do it. And she confessed after that I was her first guest, which of course terrified me. But it was just, I couldn't get over the beauty of it. To me was that it was all about her reading the wind, like, because you're just constantly spiraling up and trying to find the next. And I was like, I couldn't get my head around it, but it was, and there's no noise.
Yeah, it's also the clouds. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, you look for the thermal ascendance, and the clouds can give you an indicator because there are clouds which are forming on top of this. And you look for them, and then you go spiraling around until you gain altitude, and then you just fly around until you find the next ascending curve and everything. So it's always like about really reading the sky. So it's,
and also, totally, if it doesn't work, you're looking for fields to land in, which I do was like, don't like that part.
It is a totally different experience. I mean, the good thing about them is that they are prepared to land on fields, and which is less.
The farmers aren't so happy.
The farmers aren't so happy, but it's not what we have with my planes. So it's really, we are not prepared to land on fields, and if we do, probably we're going to damage the plane.
Really?
Yeah. Those guys, they have like really what we call finesse. So it's really the ratio, the distance it can like travel without losing some altitude. I mean, they have huge finesses which allow them to actually travel very far without losing a lot of altitude, and it's like really, really cool.
They're beautiful. I mean, I can't get over the idea that you're flying a plane that you can basically push around with one hand. It was just, It was like a model plane. I'm amazed they convinced me to get into it, to be honest. But the takeoff and the landing though is why. I mean, the landing sort of makes sense to me, but the takeoff where you're being towed by a plane, I'm like, oh my god, it's a little complicated. Apparently, they have a slingshot as well that they use.
Yeah. I already saw a few places. There's a few close by that do that.
Well, look, if you like the flying, my God, try the gliding because it's just extraordinary. But again, I'll stick to the train, I think, for me. Sara, look, I've kept you way too long. Thank you so much for this. We are over 2 hours we've been talking, and I feel like we could probably do another 2 hours. I would love to get you back with Oliver if we can at some point to talk about your paper, because it's funny. Bart Root is another friend of ours from this podcast, and he's just had a paper published. So I was just starting to work through that, and I thought, what am I doing? I've got to get him back to talk about it. It'd be wonderful to talk to you guys about what you've done. Is there anywhere, like, where do people, if people wanted to get in touch with you or wanted to ask you advice on how to get into this kind of stuff, where do you, is there somewhere people can reach you?
I think
Are you using LinkedIn?
Would be the best. Yeah, I kind of have it and check it quite regularly. So
do you? Oh, good. That's more than I do. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
That would be the place, I think. That's would.
All right. Well, I will put your LinkedIn in the description as well. Also, are there any links wise? What's the best thing to share for people to look to see what you're up to at ESA and stuff?
I think like if there's like something major going on, I really am gonna publish on LinkedIn. And
great. Okay.
Yeah, and most of that, then it's just following the, let's say, the network in the university I'm into. So it's basically you just go to University of Bern and search for the Department of Space and Science, and that would be like where you get all the news.
I'll put that link in as well then. Perfect. That's amazing. Is there anything we missed that you wanted to talk about? Anything that I don't want to...
No, I think that's, pretty much it.
It was... Look, I knew it was going to be great. It was better even than I thought. Sara, thank you so much. Again, we got to thank. I know Agnes had to go and learn Dutch, but
Yeah,
huge thanks to Agne for putting this all together. For everyone for showing up and your fabulous
yeah,
questions. I might
exactly.
just, and I saw Cal was in there doing her modding. Thank you so much, Cal. So I guess I will wrap up by saying until we geek again, be brave, be kind, be brilliant. Cheerio and huzzah, the dog that I now have to go and walk.